Hopefully that didn't mess anything up. Uh, hello, hello, hello. Let me make sure I'm alive. Okay, it's good enough to start the countdown. Uh, let's see. I can't tell if I'm live on my second channel or not. Let me see. Live. I hate YouTube so much. Why is it private? I never set it to private, but it always goes back to private. Visibility. Public. Please. React. Live. Let me do that. I need to... That. King. Nope, that's a person. Don't do that. How did it even get that? King. Close that. I can close that. Okay, is it working now? Please. Why is my Wi-Fi not working on this phone? What the heck? There we go. Okay, good, good. It's working. Do that. Do that. Okay. Okay. 30. Let me move this. Move that. Hmm. $30, $29, $28, $27, $26, $25, $24, $23, $21. I need to adjust my mic. 16, there we go. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. What? What? We good? Why am I so far over? Hmm. Maybe I should put it a little quieter. Does that sound better when it's quieter or when it's louder? I don't know. I don't know which one sounds better. But hello, hello. I don't know if anyone could tell, but as soon as I pressed go live, my brain thought that someone called my name, so like, oh, might as well just end the stream for a split second, just in case. But apparently, none of my roommates called me at all. So, I don't know how I heard someone call my name if no one did that. But, hello, hello. It has been no time at all. Absolutely no time has passed. And, little update. Mike. Little update. I got a haircut. You can't really tell. Hello, hello. I feel like I need to make that a little bit bigger on this. Let's see. Where's that at? Right here. Hello, hello. I got a haircut while I was gone. Obviously, my hair looks as perfect as ever with this model, but in the real world, I got me a haircut, and I will probably need to go back and get a few things done because I have a few issues with the haircut because I feel like the haircut it's giving a bowl cut. It's giving young Justin Bieber. I don't really like that. So but I haven't had my hair this short in like 3 years maybe because I just can't be bothered to get it trimmed that often. But I think I want to get like it shaved down on the sides, and I also need to get like the back cut a little bit more, and then I'll be good to go. Because I really enjoy having short hair, nothing to have to deal with. No, it's already a bowl cut. It's already a bowl cut. I need to shave the sides so it's less of a bowl cut. I don't look good with a bowl cut. That's why when I had short hair last time, I shaved like all of the underneath my hair because it looked cool. So I need to do that again, except not quite shave it as much, just maybe half of the underneath, enough to give it layers and textures and look cool. But uh anything else to say? Hmm. I recorded. I think no. It does not look cool on me. It does not look cool on me. I feel like a young Justin Bieber. I do not look cool with a bowl cut. I don't think I've ever seen anyone rock a bowl cut. Hmm, maybe one actor. I don't know who the actor is. I've just seen clips. He kind of rocks a bowl cut. But me, no, I do not. Um, I don't think I have any more updates. I think the haircut is all I did. I think so. But, uh, we are going to watch some more casual geographic. I've got quite a lot of videos, and maybe I will get through the bulk of them. Probably not. Probably not. Because I think I have multiple hours worth to go through. But we can try and make a dent. He came out with 2 new ones since the last time we did the stream. So we will watch those 2 first and then go to back where we left off. That's how we're gonna do this. Let me make sure everything's good. before I switch scenes. Oh, I need to close my timer. If you drink. Oh, yummy, yummy. Wow. Okay, there we go. But here we go. I think let me count how many I have saved. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I've got 19 video saved. If we're lucky, I'll maybe get through 10. I got through 8 last time, so hopefully we can do that again. Yeah. I think that is all the intro I need. I don't know why I'm so paranoid. I feel like I keep hearing things. The voices. Okay, I think I'm going crazy. Okay, let me do. No. I am fine. I am good. Okay, let me get my thing ready for intros. I recorded 3 videos earlier today that I need to edit. Okay. Animals that not even AI could come with. Hello, pumpkins. I don't know if I want to do that intro or not. I don't know if it's better than what's up. Oh, what's up, YouTube? My name is Mystic, and welcome back to Mystic Reacts. Today we're watching the video by Casual Geographic. Animals that not even AI could come with. Animals that not even AI could come up with. I don't know what I would consider the weirdest animal that I can think of. My head is blanking. But let's get into it. I think instead of redoing intros, I'll just edit it out like that. Hello. Thank you. Hope everyone else hope everyone has a good day as well. I am on a stutter roll today. But let's get into the video. I got chased through the mall today.
Oh my god, what is that?
Monkey?
Oh my god! What
Bear.
is that?
Holy shit, my eyesight. Bat! I saw a bat.
This is what happens when you try to make a sequel without paying respect to the source material.
Okay.
Nature clearly tried to recreate the biological box office hit that was a giraffe, but on a budget. The result is an animal that 100% spawned a cryptid myth or 6. If the
I think I saw those like a photo of them in science class. Those are so cool. So let me turn this down on my end.
tall one's a giraffe, then this is a rough draft. We don't talk about Garanux enough, and we really should, because explaining this animal to the wrong people in the wrong times would have been cause to have you lobotomized. And you know they're not AI, because Garanux can go their entire lives without drinking water. Well, technically anybody can, but getting moisture from leaves and shoots means Garanux can live a full life without ever sipping water. Allen Iverson could never. You know what huskies look like after getting shaved? Well, Garanux look like an alpaca with alopecia, while also looking like a kangaroo doing a handstand. Go ahead, pause the video and squint, you'll see it eventually. But the Garanux is a gazelle. My vision's too bad, I can't see anything. Its closest relative likely being the one you think of when you hear the word gazelle. Garanux are built different, literally structured abnormally. If you didn't know any better, you'd assume you saw something that rhymes with wind soccer. And the pose makes me think they inspired the freak deer that folded Finn from Adventure Time. But of course, the most uncanny feature is that pinhead. Nature had to give them buns of steel and iron quads just to act as a counterbalance. Why they didn't just give them a normal head? Well, that is beyond our comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice to know an animal built like a Wendigo still has decorum. I defy you to tell me this isn't a male Garanuk holding down a branch for his girl. Ain't nothing artificial about this intelligence. Some stuff is just universal. There's really nothing like a Garanuk, but there's a distant relative of theirs that's arguably more mythical. The Saiga looks like Narnia in the face, and that's saying something because I never watched Narnia.
Huh?
But it feels right.
Real?
The Saiga is an yo, editor, can we better. The Saiga is an unusual and
They can probably
underrated
smell
antelope
20
that used to
times,
populate
huh?
the steppe in millions. That's actually why they have the NSFW
Why the
nose.
long
You see, that
nose?
double barrel nostril situation was an adaptation to filter out dust kicked up by the massive herd. The same nose also cools the blood in the summer and warms up air in the winter before it gets to the lungs. It's a multi-purpose proboscis that makes them Antelope Alf, while also
That's
serving as
what
a
it
built-in
reminded me
mask.
of.
Yet that mask couldn't save the Saiga from its own pandemic, because in 2015 there was a mass outbreak of a bacteria that caused blood poisoning in the
2030.
infected and killed 200,000 and erased 2/3 of the global population. But the Star Wars Extra has made a comeback, with their numbers rebounding from less than 40,000 in 2005 to today over 4 million, with Kazakhstan ecologists estimating that they'll hit over 5 million by 2030. Thank the powers that play for that, because just imagine showing somebody this picture of an extinct animal and being like, yeah,
That's
this was
real.
taken all the way back in 2015. So if you needed to hear good news, you'll be happy to know the Saiga is
They're
looking like it's here
kind
to
of
stay.
cute.
You might be less happy about this though.
Okay.
I've seen some adorable looking grasshoppers in my
I've
day.
not.
A smiling bugs-like paralysis demon is not one of them. To be fair, it's not a grasshopper, it's a
Where's the
katydid. Same insect
Hyperion
order, different
order?
insects, and I hear they get real
Ain't that a
offended when you
shoe?
confuse them. This katydid belongs to the Copophora genus. A genus that looks like a sick joke with members perpetually mocking you for it. There's not a single situation where a bug needs to look like this. And maybe it's partly my fault because I can't look at this and not see two brick yellow teeth giving me the world's most devious smile. He's built like a Courage the Cowardly Dog plot device, freaky Fred looking. That smile should get you put on a list. And the thing is, they're not just an assault on your sight. Giant katydids have the
Can it
distinction
close
of
its
being
mouth?
one of the loudest insects on Earth.
Why it sound like a gun? Kind of.
You know, I don't know everything, so I wasn't sure if that audio was edited or not. But after listening to other clips, I've come to the conclusion that, yes, this bug can, in fact, send a
Sounds
war
like
veteran
like
back
a
to Vietnam
cicada.
with a touch of its wings. That wing rubbing is called stridulation, and it's not just an alarm clock for PTSD. Some katydids sound exactly like chirping birds. And just like birds, the call is mostly for attracting mates, and some male katydids will form boy band groups to sing together to help each other keep the rhythm, which is apparently a major turn on. And if you think the bugs show respect to the original IP, 1, katydids came first, so the birds sing like them, and 2, some katydids eat birds, so
Ow.
yeah, katydids let their nuts hang. Literally, because fun fact, cover your ears kids, but the largest testicles on the planet belong to these bush crickets. You don't have to believe me. You
Largest
can
in
Google
the
it, and then you can
planet?
explain your search history. Just know, there's
Wait,
not a
wait,
single
wait,
prompt you
wait,
can
what? Go back?
kids, but the largest testicles on the planet belong to these bush crickets.
Okay, I think he's joking. I don't think he's being literal. I was like, there's no way. Okay, I think he's joking.
You don't have to believe me. You can Google it, and then you can explain your search history. Just know, there's not a single prompt you could give a computer that
Mine
would
are
lead to
bigger
this.
than that,
And that's the thing with
so.
AI. Nature's weird enough without people making stuff up, and this is the most AI-looking animal I've ever seen. Goats in general don't seem to be real. Like, they're constantly
How they
testing
do
what
that?
they can get away with in the Matrix. And the Markhor is no different. The Markhor genuinely looks mythical, with a reputation that actually precedes them. Their name translates to
Let's get
snake eater
Pokemon.
because of their habit of curb-stopping serpents and, predictably, eating them. At least according to folklore, and locals would collect the chewed cud of these goats, believing they could use it as snake antivenom. Also, the national animal of Pakistan is a lot bigger than you think, with males often getting to over 200 pounds, which is pretty big for an animal you've probably never seen before. And if you have, and this Gandalf goat looks familiar, they were actually Thor's emotional support in Love and Thunder. The
Never
Markhor is a
watched either
beautifully
one of those
majestic
things.
specimen. Which is funny because if we were ducks, I'd literally have to censor that. Male Markhors use those iconic horns to battle cliffside for females. That and they were created a day nature's ice cream machine came in. Whether it's them allegedly landscaping the snake population, their cinematic fights to the death, or just Markhor parkour, you gotta admit, this goat has more aura than anything an algorithm could come up with. Now this goat, holy
Is that a
freak Now, I think every animal's beautiful in its own way, but that
Why
starts
is
to
it?
change once
Its
people
face,
start playing God.
its mouth
And
looks like
boy,
a
did
monkey
we
with
play
that
God
angle.
with this goat. We ruined them just like we did the
It
powder
looks like
pigeon.
looks
We
like a
fully
monkey
pumped
wearing
the
a
goat,
goat
and weirdly
skin.
enough,
For
Damascus
some
goats look
reason.
almost normal as kids, only to get Pearl Harbored by puberty. They say for every ugly mug, there's at least one who'll defend it. So I'm still waiting for someone to defend the animal.
How does
literally
that
built as
evolution
Cusco's karma.
occur?
This is the one time I wish it were AI, because they look like their existence is constant pain. That is not the skull of an animal that should have been afforded
They are
life.
pretty
That, and
good.
this is now the third case of
Maybe
unnecessary
not this one.
censorship. Looking like Rocky Dennis's
Maybe
persona
not
is even
this
funnier when you
one.
realize a Damascus won a beauty pageant for goats, with Gar
Ow.
being named Most Beautiful Goat in 2008. And yes, those are the pictures PR went with. And I'm sure the goats are nice people and they didn't ask for this, but that's what human
Got a
hubris
personality.
does. It turns goats into Dark Crystal characters. That's a lot of effort just to get one-upped by nature. Like this. Not only is this real, but this cat and that shark have
That's a
something in common.
cat?
I see you all have
That
questions,
was
and I'm
a
gonna get to
monkey.
them, starting with the biggest one. Why do you know the things that you know? You should have been asking yourself that after I
That's
brought up bush
from,
cricket doing this.
Chilla's
People ask me
Arts.
how I know so much about animals and even why I'm so into them in the first place, and I don't know, but the answer is likely undiagnosed and very undermedicated. It's really nothing for me to spend hours, even days, going down the rabbit hole of my fixation of the week. It's when it's time to sit down and make the video and retrace the rabbit hole. Yeah, I waste a lot of time that way. That's why I feel pretty good about today's sponsor, Opera. Don't touch the mouse. Now, see, that's actually the problem. We're in an attention recession. Luckily, Opera can help with that. Opera's a web browser with features I honestly wish I had around in college. Features like Tab Islands. Tab Islands lets you group your tabs by theme or prop. And with the player feature, you can detach the music and float it around to control it without clicking back and forth and speed bumping
Hell
the
yeah.
workflow. So whether you're a student, creator, or just chronically online, there's at least something for you on this
I'm very
browser. The link will be in
online.
the description if you want to see for yourself. Shout out to Opera for sponsoring this video, but more so, shout out to Opera for sponsoring my recreational rabbit hole habit, because this was one hell of a rabbit hole to go down. You are looking at a rare albino cyclops found inside
That
the
is
stomach
from
of a
the
pregnant
Chilla's
dusky
Arts
shark.
game.
He looks like a petrified Agent Plecky from Lilo and Stitch. Actually, no, he looks like one of those disgustingly hyper-realistic frames from SpongeBob. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This deformed
yeah,
fetus
yeah.
is a result of one of the freakiest defects in nature.
Hello.
Damn it. Holoprosencephaly is a rare condition where the brain of a developing
holo
embryo fails to separate into two distinct halves, instead forming one mass.
Okay.
Obviously, this causes a laundry list of problems, and psychoplia means
What
one
if
eye
I was
gets
a
stuck right in the
cyclops?
middle. It's the same condition afflicting this kitten.
How
Unfortunately,
is that
this
not a
condition has been
monkey?
described as being
It looks like a monkey,
incompatible with
not a
life,
cat.
which is a really dramatic way of saying you're basically born in past tense. But the weirdest part is HPE is caused by a mutation in the Sonic the Hedgehog gene. Don't laugh, I'm serious. In the early stages, it's this gene and the Sonic the Hedgehog protein that separates the eye field into two separate eyes. And maybe that's why the Speed Freak has one eye with two pupils. Oh god, I'm sorry, take it back. Oh, also humans can get holoprosencephaly too. I'm just not
That's
putting those
not a
pictures
human.
anywhere near this video. But yeah, the shark's
Okay.
real, but incredibly rare. That's not its base form. Not like this though. This is
Woo.
platypus levels of nonsense. The star-nose
ground
mole is proof that people will let
thing.
nature get away with anything so long as it's small enough and so long as it spends most of its natural life underground. The mole looks like it sneezed while constipated and prolapsed from the other end, and those 22 facial flesh fingers or tendrils are freakishly sensitive. Where your hand has 17,000 touch receptors,
Really?
starfish face has 100,000 on its nose, making it the most sensitive touch organ in the animal kingdom. It's so sensitive, Cthulhu's pet can decide whether or not something's food in 8 milliseconds and actually eat it in as little as 120, meaning it's a Lovecraftian mole that eats faster than any other animal on Earth while essentially maxing out on reaction time. And since most moles eat their weight in food a day, star noses are in a constant state of binging. This mole would genuinely end all life on Earth, if only it weren't an eighth of a pound. Not
Good thing
only
it
because they
is,
would
though.
eat entire
Good thing it
ecosystems
is.
into collapse, because there'd be no way of escaping them. Not only are they speed-eating earthbenders with the internal discernment of a vacuum, they can swim and breathe underwater. Okay,
Ooh.
not really, but they can smell underwater, and they
Ooh,
do
what
it
is
by
it?
blowing air bubbles to trap molecules that mix with the air inside before
That
inhaling the bubble and, by
should be
extension,
censored,
the
I
trap
think.
molecules. This means a diving mole can sniff out prey while underwater, and even aim air bubbles at a specific target. And did I mention they do this blind? But somehow there's more, because this creature can smell in stereo. The same way you would compare differences in sound between the left and right ear to pinpoint the source, moles can do with their nostrils. Star moles are just a bunch of randomly broken skills and powers packed into a flesh flower faced fur termite. And if you can't say that 5 times fast, you better like this video. But you definitely heard of star-nosed moles before. As a palate cleanser, there you go. The cutest animal you've never seen. Because if I saw it, I wouldn't just think it was AI. I think it was bad Photoshop. How else does one explain a panda, leopard, meerkat ferret?
I
The
want
last
it.
part's a hint. The marbled polecat is a mustelid, not unlike honey badgers, otters, and wolverines, albeit a little smaller. They're not even the only type of polecat, but they are the one that looks the most like animated taxidermy. They're the only ones that dress like a mother of 4 in divorce court. Marbled polecats stand out, and that might be the point. It's believed a defensive polecat will aggressively flash their colors as a warning. Not that they're venomous, but their attitude is. That and polecats will take a page out of their skunk cousin's playbook and crop dust a threat with foul-smelling anal secretions that reek of the dead. Also, polecats might be more of a stereotype than honey badgers, as they're hyper-aggressive and regularly attack animals many times their size. This is the same calico ferret that made Ukrainian soldiers evacuate from a bunker.
Look at him.
Як його витягнути, бля?
He's just a little guy.
Так понятно, що він зараз працює.
He's just a little
Бля, він хоче
guy.
напасти.
You know how insane you have to be to bite the ground out of frustration?
He's so
Someone tells
cute,
Zigzagoon it
though.
ain't that serious? Well, considering the loaded skunk shot, it actually might be. And on the topic of smell, last but not least,
What is that? I know what that is. I don't know what
alright,
it's called.
so not AI, but either that is a cartoonishly tiny truck or binturongs are a lot bigger than I thought they were. This mammal casserole is also called a bear cat, but in truth, they're not either.
Yeah, I've
they're
seen
in
those.
suborder Feliformia,
Not
meaning
really.
they belong to the cat half of order Carnivora. And in Feliformia, binturongs are in the section that is the
Binturong?
least talked about. In fact, I could make a part 2 based on vivarids. Not a vivid ferret, you got your turn. Vivarids also include civids like the one whose poop goes in coffee, and genids, which are cats nature drew left-handed. And it's the binturong
I'm
that is the biggest
left-handed.
vivarid, and with some females weighing nearly 80 pounds, they are in fact way bigger than I thought they were. I was not expecting a sloth bear from the back. So not a bear or a cat, but this black sentient bath mat can climb, and they have a prehensile tail to help them do it, which is why you'll probably smell them before you see them. It's true, a binturong bathroom break smells identical to hot buttered popcorn. A smell they use as a warning to rivals, but also as an invitation to the amorous. So if you're in the jungle and randomly smell a movie theater, you might be in the presence of a bear cat.
Okay.
Or death. Since yeah, tiger urine also gives fresh butter. In fact, that's probably why the Binsies evolved to smell like that. Wait, that's not...
Why does it smell like
Wait, no, can someone
buttered
fact check me
popcorn?
on that? I just made that up, but it sounds real. Is that the reason why? Despite being built like a Mandela effect and half the population swearing they didn't exist a couple years ago, bearcats are part of the most primitive group of feliforms, meaning they're closer to being beta cats, despite them looking like nature hasn't unlocked
Can we
them yet.
tame 'em?
I can make that joke. I've earned it. Just a chuckling, tree-climbing Frito warrior. They also smell like Fritos. Raccoon, monkey,
Ooh.
lemur, bear hybrid that can procrastinate and postpone pregnancy until the outsides are favorable.
Somewhere
also, the babies
between.
are called bidlets.
Good
and I like
luck
that. And that's gonna do it for
deciding.
this video. I definitely left some animals off, so if this gets, I'm greedy, 220k likes, I'll do a part 2. But until then, drink water, hug your mother. Remember, reality will always mock fiction, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Hell yeah. Those animals are very weird, and also some I've already seen before and look very normal. But YouTube, until next time, bye bye, and hello. I am both neither a guy or a woman, so good luck on that. Why is that file not saving? What? There we go. Hmm? I'm not an alien. I'm a bat. I am the mystery middle zone. Let me go to the second video. What is the second video? I'm not a fed yet. I'm not a fed just yet. Maybe one day. What? Nature's favorite country. I swear it had a different name in the past. I feel like it had a different name when I added it a week ago. About a week ago. Okay. Let me. What? And then change this up. What? There we go. How nature's favorite country figured it out. Well, I mean, if you can't tell, I'm obviously dyeing my hair. So, yeah. But my hair personally, Mystic Vtuber, me, my hair is naturally white. If you know the eyelashes, eyebrows didn't give that away, and you know the very visible roots don't give away the fact that green and orange may not be my natural color. So, but let's get into the intro for the second video. After I take a drink of this very lovely lemonade lime flavor water. After having that one insanely sour drink of strawberry lemonade. Thank you. I'm glad me being a femboy does not make you not like me. Hopefully it only enhances how cool I am. I don't know where I was going with that. But time for the intro. What the fuck was my intro? Hello, YouTube. My name is Mystic, and welcome to Mystic Reacts. Today, I am watching a video by Casual Geographic. How nature's favorite country figured it out. I don't know what nature's favorite country is. I can guess it probably isn't the United States. I can probably guess that much. But I have no. I just realized there is a country right in front of my face. I don't know what country that is. So, yeah, let's get into it. Wow.
No military, no street addresses, and no zoos managed to be the happiest place on Earth. Well, they figured you don't need war to find peace, don't need numbers to find your place, and you don't live around nature, you merely adopt her pace.
Okay. Is this like near the Amazon?
Costa Rica changes you. It's regularly listed in the top 5 of happiest places on Earth, and in 2019, it was actually voted number 1. It's also where you go to find animals you swear nature came up with that day. Did you know Costa Rica holds 6% of Earth's entire biodiversity, while only holding 0.3% of the real estate?
I watched a video
6% of Earth is like 2 Russias, and Costa Rica fits that in a country smaller than West Virginia. It's an animal lover's dream, so safe to say, Costa Rica ruined my life in the best possible way. I was invited by Ted Countdown. Yeah, that Ted. We'll get back to that. And that led to some consequences.
Is his
First
name
was the
really
fact that
Ted?
living in New Jersey meant my first point of contact after Costa Rica was Newark Airport. And all I'm gonna say is there's a reason SpongeBob has an entire episode on that. The other is that one cannot simply go to Costa Rica and just be content with sitting back at home. The same way a toxoplasma parasite turned a third of the world into cat people, something in Costa Rica's air gives you straight wanderlust and makes you want to see as much of the rest of the world as possible.
Not me.
It's hard to explain if you haven't been there, so here's some Costa Rican animals that'll change your brain chemistry. Cause you know a country's on something when they have their own honey badger. Can you believe you've made it this far without knowing about the greater grisson? A stretch weasel rocktail replica most people have never seen. A miscellaneous mustelid feared by an entire country. At least it would be If only it was bigger than a ferret. Just one of the many animals that prove Costa Rica's a simulation. A kindergartner's canine caricature came to life and it's called a bush dog. You're forgiven if this DLC dog you've never seen. They weren't discovered in Costa Rica until 2017. They had set up cameras for 12 years and this was the first picture they got. It's a semi-aquatic corgi that's so short it needs a handstand to pee and mark territory. Their closest relative is that, and in packs, a band of bush dogs can take down a tapir. That's a tapir, basically a boneless rhino, also called the gardeners of the forest because they help spread seeds for it. It's the national animal of Belize. It's the biggest animal in Costa Rica you'll see, and they are a personal comfort animal to me. Also, allegedly, they eat people's dreams, at least in Japanese mythology, which inspired a Pokemon. The agouti is another seed disperser, and in size, they're somewhere between an economy capybara and a guinea pig. Clearly, they inherited the goodwill, and as someone who's been here, this is likely the first animal you'll see. The agouti is even a friend to trees, since their habit of burying and reburying seeds may have saved some trees from extinction, making them the squirrels of a country that already has them. And if you love squirrels, you'll love what the rich coast has to offer, specifically the variegated squirrel and all the colors they come in. There's 15 subspecies of this alternative squirrel and 7 are in Costa Rica. In fact, feel free to pause this video and let me know which squirrel is you.
This one's me, because it's red, has a little bit of white, and the black is my tattoo. So this squirrel is me. Which one
the
are
armored
you?
rat is another rodent that looks even more like a Pokemon, thanks to the namesake of defensive spines meant to ward off predators. So it's reassuring to know I don't apply, because to me it does the opposite. Leave a comment if you knew about this rat, so I can reply and call you a liar. Ah, jump scare! Just kidding, it's just a water opossum. It's not the only marsupial found in Costa Rica. In fact, there's more than 10, like Derby's woolly opossum.
Why are
but it is the only one with webbed feet, and also the only one where both the males and females have pouches. Except males use theirs as a speedo to protect the McNuggets while swimming. Now it should be no surprise that a country out of this world has a Jesus lizard. The basilisk got a street name because when the going gets tough, this lizard turns water into a runway. Now granted, these animals are pretty difficult to find. But what you will see is a coati, which is not a moonwalking dinosaur, but a raccoon cousin that'll steal your heart along with anything else not nailed down. Now with Costa Rica, one bird won't make your trip,
in another video.
but 2 can. There's 6 types of toucans in Costa Rica, and they all have a secret.
Those things were
They
real.
want you to think they're a parrot, but I see through them. That's a rebranded woodpecker on steroids. The macaw might be the only bird arguably more iconic. You never forget the first time you find wild macaws flying above your head, and it's the first time I've personally seen an animal glow red. But also a special shout out to the critically endangered great green macaw with less than 1,000 left. And as unfortunate as that is, you've definitely seen a macaw or toucan before. Let me know when you clock a resplendent quetzal. Definitely a life-altering bird to see, and every bird watches wet dream. I don't even count the years since I was born. I just count how much birds excite me. So safe to say, the resplendent quetzal makes me feel my age. So does the king vulture. Now you know me, I love all vultures, but you also know a country has aura when even the scavengers are out here getting fits off. I love me some king vulture. How could the drip be denied? Now every bird's beautiful, but if you had to ask who I think is the flyest, I wouldn't say them. They kind of scare me. Montezuma or a pendula. I definitely didn't just need an excuse to say that. Costa Rica's ethereal if you love birds, but otherworldly if you love cats, and the Pura Vida capital has plenty of that. Where else can you find an endangered species on your porch? The oncilla is a no more than 6-pound pint-sized predator, and one of the smallest wild cats in the world. It looks like someone used AI to babyfy a puma, and this tiny tiger is a cat I'm betting a lot of y'all have never even seen. Yet, the same cat, also called Pidorillo, has spawned on the porches of tourists. I'm not promising that you'll be visited by a sila if you come here, but the chances aren't zero. But what you probably won't see is a jaguarundi, designed by the same studio that brought you the bush dog. It's one first-time viewers might not even clock as a cat. Yet this UFO, unidentified feral otter, is fully feline. In fact, you want to guess its closest relative? Well, genetically speaking, this is actually the pipsqueak puma. There's plenty of cats in Costa Rica, including the trio that looks like different stages of the same Pokemon. Side note, did you know ocelots and opossums have this weird relationship where they seem to hang out on the low? Not to anthropomorphize, I'm sure there's a reason. I just don't know what it is. I'm telling you, Costa Rica is not a real place. I mean, this video wasn't recorded in Costa Rica, but that goes against my narrative, so I'm gonna disregard it. Costa Rica's not short on cats, but ironically, it's the biggest cat that's the easiest to miss. The biggest cat in all the Americas was nearly wiped
Jaguar.
out completely in Costa Rica.
Puma?
The biggest cause of jaguar deaths in the country by far are retaliatory killings by farmers, which of course is a travesty. On the other side, realizing that a farmer's entire family gets set back thousands of dollars every time one loses a cow really puts that side in perspective.
Right.
But it's how this conflict was dealt with that shows that Costa Rica really is one of one. At first, farmers were treated like villains, and those that lost livestock to big cats were offered zero solution, just a warning that they could not touch the jaguar. But more recently, there's been an active effort to coexist with the predators. Some compromises include biological corridors, untouched habitat highways that animals can travel through without the risk of human contact.
We
Not only
need that
does
in the
Costa Rica have
States.
44 of these bio bridges, these corridors cover a third of the country's overall territory. Another compromise was documenting the data of livestock attacks to create a map of predator activity, not to track and whack the cats, but to give the farmers a better chance of protecting their assets. In fact, out of the over 30 countries using this model, Costa Rica is the only one that can pinpoint precisely what and where the density of livestock attacks are mostly focused. And that's what I think sets
Really?
Costa
Why are
Rica
they
apart from the
only
others. Like, the
ones?
people of it have fully committed to living alongside wildlife, even the biggest predators. In fact, a lot of the jaguar's biggest supporters are actually farmers like Wagner Duran who have lost livestock to them. Because Costa Ricans seem to understand that living with nature means living with nature, not around it, not through it. Which is why, a while back, Costa Rica made the controversial decision to shut down all its public zoos, instead opting to move animals to rehabilitation centers with the hope that those that are fit can be returned to the wild. This naturalist approach has led to Costa Ricans learning to coexist even alongside apex predators. You'd expect a country where jaguars and pumas overlap to have constant conflict with ranchers, but instead of trying to wipe the cats out, farmers are always trying to find non-lethal measures. One even involved importing water buffalo as part of the herd, as the buffalo are tougher, healthier, and a much better deterrent against predators, while feeding on the weeds the other cattle won't. I still can't get over jaguars and pumas walking the same path, and that would be impossible without Costa Rica choosing to exercise compromise with nature over control. And today, my favorite big cat has made a comeback, and there's one animal that's real happy about that. Which is weird, because jaguars eat turtles, so in what world could they do anything good for them? Well, another thing about the rich coast, it's also home base to over 500,000 sea turtles. Hundreds of thousands of olive-ridley turtles use the beaches as a spawn point, and the rise of jaguars means less of the animals that would eat their eggs. Not only that, but it's also the jaguars' leftovers decomposing and releasing nutrients like nitrogen that keeps the forest healthy. But back to the turtles, if you're in Costa Rica on the right month, you'll witness one of the largest gatherings of turtles on the planet. And I know I said change your brain chemistry before, but seeing thousands of turtles storm beaches like Normandy will genuinely rewire your mind. Costa Rica's like Gravity Falls, but with wildlife.
Cool,
like I said, if you want to see something you've never seen before, you have a good chance of seeing it here. How about a mass mobular ray migration? It's not just turtles. These rays will travel by the hundreds of thousands passing by the rich coast. If you live long enough to see it, you're luckier than most. You might even get to see one fly. A truly once-in-a-lifetime spectacle, or as the Costa Ricans would call it, just another Tuesday. But it's not the only. I told you I was not kidding about shiny Pokemon. This is not editing. That is a 6-foot golden nurse shark found off the coast of Tortuguero National Park. And just to give you an idea of how rare this is and how this shark has no business existing, this fish is a result of 2 mutations, albinism, but also xanthrochronism, making it the first time a shark was ever seen with both. Not to mention, nurse sharks rely on camouflage to survive, so having this literal gold standard be a full-grown adult is even crazier. If I had a nickel for every time a fish found in Costa Rica made the news, I'd have at least 2 nickels. It's not a lot, but in 2014, an albino all-white marlin was caught off the coast, and in typical Costa Rican fashion, it was released out of respect, or white privilege, because there's something about Tequisha that seems to be a beacon for phenomenons. We already mentioned a rarely seen cat pulling up to someone's porch, but what about finding something that was extinct? The Isthmian alligator lizard just looks like a reptile left behind, and for a while it seemed like they were, since they went missing for 50 years before being rediscovered. And while it wasn't in Costa Rica, of course this ancient lizard is found in Costa Rica. The glass frog was another find in the Costa Rican rainforest. Yeah, you're not slick, Hermit. Other than being a Muppet understudy, the glass frog is most famous for being see-through, with all of its inner business out for anyone to see. Where else but Costa Rica, a country I've had on my bucket list since I was 8. So imagine my blood pressure when TED Countdown invited me out there for their creator quest. TED Countdown, this isn't an ad by the way, but TED Countdown's whole thing is bringing different people from different walks of life to learn about and discuss issues like climate change, conservation, and that's what they did. They brought a bunch of creators with very little in common and had to spend 4 days in Costa Costa Rica together. Basically, it was total drama Costa Rica, but without the toxicity.
Hell yeah.
Of course, I was most excited for the animals, and trust and believe, animals were seen. But honestly, it might have been the people that had the biggest impact. I will forever speak highly of the ticos and ticas of Costa Rica because I've seen firsthand the people there have a genuine connection to the land. Because many understand nature will provide only if you let her. That's someone's garden. Actually, let me not be rude. That's Jasmine's garden. Jasmine Godinez. I don't even want to call her a chef. That woman was making straight art. That is the pose of a man locked in while starving to death. Not to mention headache, stomach ache, ankle sprain. I don't think there's one condition you could complain about that Jasmine couldn't just find a cure to in her own backyard. I feel like Jasmine and people like her really embody the spirit of Costa Rica. Like they see life as a constant collaboration with nature, which it is. That's why the farmers you'd expect to hate jaguars for taking cows are actually their strongest soldiers. In fact, quick story, Carlos Manuel Rodriguez is the environmental minister of Costa Rica, and in 2006, he was severely mauled by a defensive mother tapir and left dazed and disoriented in Corcovado National Park, where he wandered, lost and injured for 3 days. And after his near-death experience, Carlos holds zero ill will towards the tapir, still working tirelessly to protect them and even continuing to collect wooden models of the same animal that nearly killed him.
Really?
That's Costa Rica in a nutshell. It's like
I would
someone
kind of
cloned a
back
bunch of
off
Maya
after
divas
that.
and had them run a country. I actually met Maya. That's her. That's Maya. Say hi, Maya. You may know her from her Alve
Ooh,
sanctuary,
yeah.
or from the TED Talk that she just did, or just from being the Gen Z Jenga
From
doll of
what?
social media. Basically,
don't
that's the
know what
homie.
it is.
And we were the only 2 wildlife creators invited, so
Really?
naturally, as 2 animal nerds, the
They
very
didn't
first
pick
night
just
we went
wildlife
out
creators?
into the forest just to see what we could find, and now I'm gonna share that with you.
Okay.
First was this giant red-winged grasshopper. There's a Maya hand for reference. Now I've seen some horrific looking grasshoppers and the like in my day, but you know what? He's cute, and I genuinely don't care if I'm the only one on that hill. They're one of the largest grasshoppers on the planet, with a wingspan that can get to 10 inches. If you didn't know
feel
any
like
better,
I would
you
still
think you
be
had a bat or
terrified
a
of
small
those.
bird flying above your head, and the sound of one hitting your window sounds like a robbery. Big deal, he's still a baby. Besides, be thankful, some grasshoppers eat birds. Be glad a red wing's only victims are green. But speaking of the
I'm
unappreciated,
green.
we also found this beauty
No.
right here, an orb weaver. Wasn't exactly sure what kind, but my best answer is Areophora edax. And yes, I'm gonna put a spider
No,
warning,
thank
but
you.
do you really need one? I was afraid of
Yeah.
pigeons as a kid. Where was my trigger warning? Well, you should know that orb weavers are not dangerous or venomous, or at least they are if you're an insect watching this video, but as a human, nah. In
But I'm a
fact, the most
bat.
dangerous thing about them is how easy it is to walk face first into a web.
Ugh.
Not because you get hurt, because
I
then
hate
you'd have to
walking
carry the
into
weight of
webs.
destroying a family home and leaving a spider destitute. Also, while I was trying to ID him, I found that Costa Rica has some insane spiders. Have you seen spiny orb weavers? They're almost too freaky to
is
be scary.
that?
But easily, the weirdest animal we found was an animal I'd never seen before. No, not Maya. This was the only clip we got because he flew off. Rude,
What
but
is that?
yeah, that's a plant hopper nymph. I had no idea how cool these things were. They have fiber optic cables for a tail. That isn't even a tail, it's a waxy projection. Not 100% sure what it's for, but the most popular theory is that it's for self-defense through diversion, like a lizard losing its tail. But I also read that it's like a parachute meant to stabilize a nymph in the air. There's so much in Costa Rica, the challenge isn't finding them, it's not accidentally stepping on them when you do. In fact, pause the video
like
when
a
you find the
live
frog, let me know how
cloud.
long it takes.
Him not that hard. Finding him through my phone.
I don't
Yeah,
see
no,
it.
I cannot see
I
him.
still don't see it.
Where are you?
I still don't see it.
Oh yeah, I want upgrade.
Also, we
I-
didn't just
I
find
didn't- I
insane
never
animals.
saw it.
Check out this lobster tail, aka the toucan beak, and the touch me not, and I'm gonna let the Higa explain.
Touch Me Not.
Touch Me Not.
And, well, actually, it's failing because there's a little bug on it right now. But it's got this really cool defense mechanism. When you touch it, it closes up. And the point of that is when a bug or an herbivore comes to feed on it, it spooks that animal.
Okay, so not quite like a like the things that kill the bugs in the mouth.
Touch Me Not.
So yeah, not bad finds for an impromptu backyard safari
a good
in
name for
darkness,
it.
but the coolest thing to me were probably the ants. I nearly massacred a colony of leafcutter ants, and you can probably guess what they do for a living. But they don't eat the leaves, they actually use the leaves to farm fungus, and that's what they eat. And apparently, ants have been farming fungus for like 50 million years.
Oh, I thought the
don't think
green
we
was
acknowledge
part
how
of
crazy
them.
that is. That's not even the
Oh,
wildest
okay.
part. Some ants farm aphids like livestock, where they lead them to food, carry them into nests at night, and even milk them. Not to sound like a bunny hugger or anything, but there's something about watching a foraging line of ants working in solidarity that just restructures your neural pathways. Maybe because they best represent Costa Rica as a whole. There was one point where they took us to meet this indigenous group, the Baruca, and I'm standing in this massive forest that had to have been around for thousands of years. Until I heard the words no man wants to hear.
What?
She was lying about her age. Less than 60 years ago, the very forest I was in was just farmland, and people banded together to basically reverse deforestation and restore what most people would have seen as just a lost cause. I don't think lost cause is even in their vocabulary, but ironically, the animal that probably best encapsulates Costa Rica's relationship with nature was the one I didn't see at all, which was disappointing because, yeah, I was looking forward to a sloth. One day we're gonna find a cure to a major disease and it's gonna be in a sloth. Scientists believe that the fur of the Costa Rican sloth holds antibiotic producing bacteria, which may be why sloths are so resistant to disease. And now the hope is that the sloth's fur ecosystem can help us fight malaria, Chagas disease, and maybe even breast cancer. More proof that nature is the world's biggest pharmacy, but there's another side to this relationship. Sloths, along with squirrel monkeys, macaws, and many more, are often victims in the illegal pet trade, and every year, thousands of sloths are kidnapped and used in tourist trap garbage like sloth selfies. That hasn't stopped Costa Ricans from going undercover as fake tourists to expose these operations from the inside and rescue the animals. If discovered, some of the undercover activists risk getting seriously hurt or worse, yet that's barely a thought to them. They live for the earth, and they'll die for her too. So yeah, Costa Rica ruined my life because being around people like that for basically a week, I couldn't shake the feeling in the back of my head that I'm not doing enough. I mean, you have these people laying down their entire lives to protect nature, and it's like, what am I doing? Like, transparently, I already have really bad imposter syndrome, but there's one quote that legitimately shifted my perspective. We met with a conservationist, Fabricio Bonilla Pacheco, and he was talking about coming to Costa Rica and being confused because he couldn't find the other conservationists. In a place like Costa Rica, I mean, you'd expect them to be all over. Except then he realized they were. They were the postmen, they were the teachers, they were the IT, software developers, chefs. His point was everybody is a conservationist. By simply living on this earth, everyone,
like
me,
a furry
you,
IT
you watching this right now, you, everyone is an environmentalist. We could and should always do more, but by just caring, you're doing enough, and I really needed to hear that. Hopefully you did too. Drink water, hug your mother. Don't hug a sloth, hug your father first.
Hell yeah.
And I'ma see ya. Actually, no, I'ma see Costa Rica again. One time is not enough, but I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Hell yeah. If you've been to Costa Rica, let me know if you saw a sloth down below in the comments. I don't think I would ever go to Costa Rica because those bugs terrify me. That's a little too much animal life for me. Way too much. But until next time, bye bye YouTube. Bye bye bye. Wow. W video. Hell yeah. Bugs like that would scare me too much to do what the people in that group were doing. There we go. Yeah, and now we're getting to the older videos, I think? Or is it one more new one? Okay, this one's older. It is from 7 months ago. Wow. Uh-oh. Wow. There we go. Okay. Change the title. 10 most disturbing ways animals can hurt you. Isn't that fun? The only thing I can think of is poison, venom, and tearing you limb from limb. That's all I've got. I don't know what the other ways could be. But what's up, YouTube? My name is Mystic, and welcome back to Mystic Reacts. Today, we're watching a video by Geographic. 10 most disturbing ways animals can hunt you. Hunt you. Okay. I did not. I can't think of more than a few ways. I also totally didn't misread this title as 10 ways they can hurt you. 10 ways they can hunt you. Okay. I didn't realize they were hunting me. I didn't realize they were doing that. But good to know. I will keep an eye out for something hunting me. Radiation? They can't do that. Surely not. But let's get into the video. Fancy ammo. Oh! Tiger! Is that a monkey? Yes. I didn't even see the
nothing else to
snake.
be grateful for. Get on your knees and be glad.
Okay,
If
I'm on
you
my
have
knees.
99 problems, avoiding predators ain't one. I hope. Otherwise, you should probably get off your knees. Predators have petrified us for as long as cavemen had consciousness, simply off the fact that just seeing one implies many others had to die. But for many, it's not what they can do to you, it's how. And these are the top 10 worst animals to be hypothetically hunted by.
This is
And
snipping
spoiler,
drill, right?
it gets a lot less hypothetical as the list goes on.
Well,
The only
that's
rule is, I won't be
leopard
talking about sea stars or crocodiles, only because I just made videos on both. Trust and believe they're both very
I will
qualified to
eventually
be
watch
here.
those
And if
too.
that disappoints you, here's a consolation prize.
Monkey.
There's a lot of things to be afraid of being marooned on an island. Dehydration, exposure, but most don't consider being culled by crabs. And that's because, outside of remote islands in the Indian and Pacific Ocean, the coconut crab is only found in a very bad trip. Despite its name,
Why is
coconuts
it
are
so
an insignificant
huge?
part of a juiced up hermit crab's diet, but that didn't stop nature from equipping them with claws that can splice the fruit open. Besides, their street name is more lore accurate, as they're
What?
also called robber crabs,
Oh.
since they'll swarm your camp and carry off anything that ain't nailed down. The problem is, that's also how they hunt. In 2016, scientists watched as a coconut crab climbed a tree and attacked a sleeping bird, snapping its wings only to continue its death grip after they both fell on the ground. Within minutes, several other crabs spawned in and proceeded to shred the barely breathing bird for hours. The crawling antichrists are scavengers with bloodlust, so getting gored by one means you'll certainly be maimed by more.
I'm
And the
never
fact that they
sleeping
can climb
outside.
and track blood means there's nowhere on the island you can go where the Krusty Krab crew won't find you. The crabs are any-can animals, as in anything can get it. Rats, cats, even full-grown pigs can get flesh stripped, but the most disturbing stories
about humans?
are those of coconut crabs eating humans.
No.
One gruesome account followed the 82-day Battle of Okinawa, where Japanese soldiers bore witness to hordes of giant spider-like crabs ravaging the bodies of their dead comrades. There's no real proof that this happened or that it even involved coconut offenders, but unfortunately, that's exactly how the crabs would have acted. Imagine a gang of armored cockroaches carrying the jaws of life, except the outcome of getting caught between them is quite the opposite. And with a diet of
they ate the
detritus,
dead
most
ones,
coconut crabs
so
are
that they at
poisonous
least
to
didn't
eat,
kill them,
especially
right?
since many have the habit of eating sea mangoes, a fruit so toxic it has another name, the
Sea
Scariest
mangoes?
apple. By far, the scariest theory, though, is that it was coconut crabs that perp-walked Amelia Earhart off the census. Scary because whether she was past tense on arrival or incapacitated a plane crash would not have changed the response by the crabs. And while it's just a theory, the idea that someone's last moments could be spent desperately dragging their crippled body before an army of crabs brutally mutilates them for hours as their suffering only draws more is enough to earn them a spot on this list. And yet, they're only number 10.
Oh no. Okay, we're not showing the animal?
Most people aren't afraid of the dark, more so what could be in it. Thalassophobia is that before the ocean, but
I
not
like
a
the
lot of
dark
people
and
are
the
afraid of
ocean.
the sky. Probably
Nope.
because you should be able to see what's coming. That's why the harpy eagle is number 9, because if
Okay.
this is your predator, you will never know peace. They're one of the
think
biggest
I've
eagles
seen
on
one
the
of
planet,
those
but what makes harpies
before.
built different is that their wings
At a
are way
Renaissance.
shorter, which means the harpy aimbot can chase you through the trees in a way no eagle ever should. Just imagine a homicidal hippogriff breaking into your house and snatching your little brother out of his bed.
Well,
Now you
I'm an
understand
only
the generational
child, so-
PTSD the monkeys on their meal prep carry.
I'm
And those
fine.
claws guarantee you don't get the chance to find out twice. The size of a grizzly bear's mitt with the grip force of a Rottweiler's jaws. You can actually hear the bones of their prey breaking as the harpies crush the life out of them. And safe to say, the same feet that can crack open an armadillo would not feel good to have gripping your skull. It is incredibly rare, but there are cases of harpy eagles attacking and clawing humans, where the eagle's leg had to be amputated because even after death, the talons wouldn't release their grip. In 2023, tourists in French Guiana walked past a perching harpy when it suddenly went for one of the women, plunging its claws into her scalp and leaving her with several deep lacerations. The concept of being jump scared by a plus-size prehistoric Freddy Krueger cockatoo spikes my cortisol, but they rarely go after humans, and when they do, the fault's usually the humans.
It's a
the next
possibility.
animal not only punished the good deed of one man, it became one of the worst animal attacks in Brazilian history.
Okay.
Australia gets the reputation for being Satan's sandbox, but not enough people give credit to the sheer insanity of the Amazon. What's a jaguar's favorite exercise? Skull crushers. Not to mention you have a Jurassic reject in anaconda, an animal that weaponizes electricity and we all decided that was okay, and a fish that convinced thousands to never pee in a river. Yet the apex predator of the Amazon isn't actually a jaguar. To be fair, the giant river otter is also called the Ariana, or the water jaguar, but with its attitude and aptitude for gang violence, it's more like an unhinged water wolf. That gang mentality is how a group can make a jaguar hit the reverse with no key, and it's already bad
I'm
enough
never
that the roy
going
weasel
to
can grow to 6
Amazon
feet long
or
without the fact that
Australia
they'll also roll
or
in a
anywhere.
pack. It's an apex predator that eats mostly fish, but they'll also fold crustaceans, anaconda, and even other river otters will adjust their routine to avoid getting run up on by a crazy-eyed cousin. You don't realize what multiple are capable of until you realize how bad they do caiman. Giant river otters will jump a caiman, overwhelming it until its muscles fill with
they as
lactic
big
acid
as a
and it's
caiman?
virtually paralyzed. It's been said before, but that isn't honest erectile dysfunction. An otter
Like, they
mafia
look like
will
the
eviscerate the
same
caiman alive,
size.
ripping it to pieces, while also sounding like if Rugrats took place in purgatory.
It sounds like demonic children laughing.
Imagine not knowing what river otters are and hearing that for the first time. The worst part is, it's been proven the same hunting tactic against a human is tragically effective. Silvio Delmar Hollenbach was a Brazilian army sergeant who had taken his family to the Brasilia Zoo when a bunch of commotion got his attention. A 13-year-old had fallen into one of the moats and now was being threatened by the animals in it. Hollenbach said, "Don't hold me back," and without thinking, leapt into the pool and lifted the injured kid out. Sadly, that meant the focus of the family of vindictive otters was now on Silvio, and the gang of aggressives dragged the struggling Hollenbach into the water and brutally mauled him in front of his family. Silvio would be pulled out, but the over 100 bite wounds in water that was the equivalent of a microbe mosh pit sealed his fate, as he would die of a nasty infection. Hollenbach was mourned and celebrated by everyone, except the boy he saved, who apparently never even mustered a thank you. The same 13-year-old that got a man turned into a chew toy would be arrested in 2016 after scamming millions worth of pension money, proving that sometimes being a hero only means saving a villain. Getting mauled and borderline waterboarded by water wolverines is a horrendous way to go out, but again, the chances you get got by otters is still low, and for Silvio, it probably would have been zero if those otters didn't just have babies. But the next animal is the mascot of F Around and Find Out. The Cape buffalo makes no sense on this list, until you remember it's one of the few prey animals that actually hunts predators. The tank, nicknamed Black Death, is arguably the most death-edging animal to hunt because it is a top 5 most vengeful creature on Earth.
Really?
The common misconception is that the lion's biggest rival is the hyena. That's laughable when a 1,200-pound piss fit can send a big cat backpedaling. The Cape buffalo is number 7 because cows are dangerous enough, but if Widowmaker tastes death, the rage cow ensures you go down with it. The Cape buffalo has treed lions for hours, and they'll stalk lion cubs just for the purpose of stomping them out. Now add that the bush mafia can pull up in a super herd of over 1,000, now you understand how lions risk going full-time horizontal every time they try them. And with a couple hundred people gored and killed by them a year, this is the first animal here with a respectable body count.
Is that real?
The problem is, every year people hunt them without realizing the buffaloes hunt back. An injured buffalo has been known to retreat to tall grass to lure you in and stalk you just to rear end you when your back is turned and keep going until you stop standing. And unlike most herbivores that'll straight up watch you get got, or in some cases gift wrap you themselves, Cape buffalo will spin the block for a predator in an effort 1,000 times John Wick. You know you're dealing with a menace when you're talking about a cow using the honey badger method on a lion, and some people have to be connected to God's Wi-Fi before they understand. Texas trophy hunter Asher Watkins thought it was sweet until his target attacked him first, completely ambushing him. The spite-fueled beef struck Watkins at 35 miles per hour, tearing his chest and stomach open, and he was declared dead in the ambulance. A tragic death, but definitely not unprovoked. Imagine walking through a corn maze knowing you're one wrong turn away from a buffalo same-day shipping you to the Lord like an afterlife Amazon package. On several islands throughout Indonesia, you'll find a dinosaur time left behind. The Komodo dragon is one of those predators where, once they start hunting you, you're as good as dead. The Komodo is everything scary about coconut crabs, but on that Jurassic
it looks
juice.
so cool.
Komodos will eat everything, and it's why baby dragons will hide up in the trees or even roll around in feces because the adults are highly cannibalistic. The steroid giga iguana also has the unfortunate habit of unearthing human graves and feeding on the long expired remains. The Komodo dragon only has about 12 successful hunts a year, so when one makes you a priority, prepare to spend days tailgated by a murderous monitor lizard. In 2008, 5 scuba divers were caught in a riptide and swept out to sea, and after 12 hours spent drifting the aquatic void, they landed on Rinca Island, where they spent the next 5 days playing cat and mouse with the monster resident dragon that took notice and stalked them, which isn't easy, thanks to another unfortunate habit of theirs. We used to think Komodos were one-shot specialists that only needed to bite you once and then just wait for you to fold to bacterial infection. And as cold as that would be, it's like LeBron letting you get the ball just to spank it off the backboard. The truth is more disturbing. Komodos don't just let their prey go, but their contingency plan is if you do get away, the glorified gecko can track you by blood, and anticoagulants in their venom keep you bleeding. So now it becomes a broken game of hide and seek, and playing it on an island the size of Philly means there's no point in the area code you can go where the leather bloodhound won't find you. Even worse, the longer you manage to play manhunt with monitors, the more dragons will be there to eviscerate you when you do fall. That blood sense is no joke. Menstruating women are actually advised against visiting for fear that the resident garbage disposals confuse them for a dying animal. There's stories of bleeding tourists lying to their guides to not miss out on the trip, only to be surrounded by dozens of Komodos coming in from all over the island. And if you think there's no way an animal moving like that can catch you slipping, millions of years of evolution would argue. One incident saw 2 dragons stalking a fruit picker from below a tree, and when Muhammad Anwar fell, the Komodos rushed him and mauled him to death. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit. Or maybe you haven't heard a baby goat scream from inside of a dragon.
Okay, good. I didn't want to hear that.
To say that the ocean terrifies me beyond comprehension is an understatement, and the animal that scares me more than any other isn't a shark, isn't an orca, not even a giant squid, but not a squid. Because I'd rather go skinny dipping around great white sharks than ever catch a Humboldt squid in the wild. At only up to 6 feet long, they're not the biggest, but everything about the way they feed fuels my nightmares. When a hunting Humboldt homes in on something, they'll approach it with all 10 appendages extended to grab prey and force it towards its mouth. And not only can that beak slice skin and cut chainmail, they do it so fast that they can grab and retract prey in just one camera frame. Not to mention, they have 2 tentacles with suckers that contain inner teeth. Great for grabbing. But the real reason the Humboldt is number 5 is because the way they would hunt you is straight out of a Stephen King wet dream. Humboldts can hunt in parties over 1,000 strong, and they're also highly aggressive speed-eating gluttons that'll strip fish down to the bones before fishermen even have time to reel them up. They're also trigger-happy with the cannibalism, and the moment one of their own shows weakness, it gets jumped and torn to shreds. The problem with Humboldts is they speedrun life so fast, they're never not thinking about food, and if you find yourself in the waters at the wrong time, you can get mauled by a pack of fleshy-armed box cutters. But it's the intelligence that's the biggest problem, because Humboldts aren't always aggro. They can be curious too, and they'll often steal cameras and lights just to take them apart and examine them. But Humboldts can go from 0 to homicide in seconds, and because they communicate by flashing red in a sea of black, once one says go, many more will follow. One diver was approached by a squid who gently started nibbling on him, and the diver, who probably couldn't believe his luck, started filming. And in seconds, the squid started pulsing red, and the man was immediately slammed by multiple as they simultaneously began to pull him into the abyss. He would escape, but he genuinely thought his ticket to Tupac was booked, and there's many more stories of divers being confronted by squids and nearly dragged to the point of no return. And some even swear they've had Humboldts attempt to rip off their masks and drown them. But going back to the first diver, I think the most disturbing part is the moment he didn't fight back and let himself look easy was the moment he became a green light to a red devil. The last unfortunate fact is that Humboldts will perform diel-vertical migrations, where every day they rise from the depths to hunt before eventually going back down. So they're more likely to run into you during goblin mode. Unfortunately for the next animal, goblin mode is their entire life.
What?
You've probably heard that there's few animals that actively hunt humans, and that polar bears are one of them. I want to clarify, they don't actively hunt humans, they just passively don't give a follow me now. Polar bears are the largest predators on land,
they don't have a whole
and
lot
as big
of
as you
choices
think
to
they are, I
human.
swear to you they're bigger. The problem starts
It
with
is
the fact
the
that they're the
Arctic.
only hyper-carnivore bear. They eat meat, and meat stands for merc every and any time, and it can make up 95% of their diet, where in something like a grizzly bear,
yeah.
it can be as low as 10. That would be bad enough.
Are there
Polar
really
bears also
plants in
live
the
in a
Arctic?
freeze-dried desert where
They
in
ain't
the
got many
winter, they can only
choices.
live off of feces, foxes, and other fallen polar bears. Polar bears
They
have
eat
way less
shit.
options, and with the sea ice they depend on receding, they can either get creative or get cremated. So they don't actively hunt humans, the same way I don't actively grocery shop for Chips Ahoy, but best believe if I see them, I'ma grab it. That's the polar bear, except they don't have to see you. With the best nose of any predator, a polar bear can smell a seal from miles away. They can detect their breathing hole from another area code and can even clock a seal under a foot of ice. So it's really true, if a polar bear sees you, it's already too late. From 1870 to 2014, there have been only 73 attacks on humans, with
How
20
many have
census
been to the
infections.
Arctic?
But being targeted by the ultimate predator of persistence is a different level of fear. In 2016, 5 Russian scientists were held hostage by over 10 polar bears, who stalked their weather station and forced them to have supplies and flares airdropped by helicopter. In 2019, 50 polar bears invaded the town of Novaya Zemlya and put them in a state of emergency, where people were afraid to leave their houses and refused to let their children
so
go to
cute
school.
as
And with shooting them
babies.
being illegal, folks had to bear this reverse Goldilocks situation unarmed. And I mean that literally, with ice bears breaking into residential buildings. Polar bears are a force of nature, and number 4, because once one chooses you, you can't run fast enough or swim far enough to be safe. One
you
swam
drive
over
far
400
enough?
miles in just 9 days, so trust that you would not get away. But there's always been
Thank
something
you,
about a
thank
carnivorous
you,
Q-tip that
thank you, thank
unsettled
you.
me. And I think I figured it out.
What?
Polar bears are a lot like the squid, where they're incredibly curious and intelligent, which makes the way they hunt and engage in general seem cold
But they're
and calculated.
cute.
You'll often notice in a lot of videos where they approach humans, the polar bears seem quiet and emotionless, and you can almost see them trying to figure it out. And their face expressions and body language tell you nothing. A polar bear pulling up on you can be curious, apathetic, or ready to revoke your presence, and you will not know which. And that's just it. They're disturbingly deadpan. And I think that's
Like
by
me.
design. Most black and brown bear attacks are defensive, meaning they either had cubs around or you managed to catch them off guard. And most times they'll give you
Okay.
many signs that you're effing around in the jurisdiction of finding out. A polar bear doesn't, because oftentimes a polar bear isn't trying to negotiate or communicate. With you, it's trying to eat you while weighing the cost. So what often makes them look cute and innocent is actually them being apathetic, emotionless terminators. Because remember, they don't fear humans the same way their cousins do, and most encounters are on the polar bear's terms. So it's true when they say, if it's black, push back. If it's brown, retire to the ground. And if it's white like a sheep, you finna go to sleep. Color of a beluga, last time talking to you. And white like a picket fence,
That
means you
really
wake up past tense.
What's next?
Number 3 and number 2 are both interchangeable. It just depends
People?
on which movie scares you more. A gross out body horror slasher flick, or a psychological mental health massacre. If you pick psychological, wait for number 2. And if you pick
Okay.
slasher, well, you probably already know how horrific it is being hunted by chimps. The sick joke is, less than
I do
5%
not.
of their diet is meat. Yet in places like Ngogo and Uganda, they can have a success rate of 80%, and it's because the way they hunt is
Of
coordinated
death?
and calculated.
Killing?
First, you have drivers, and their job is to pressure prey into the trees without actually trying to catch them. The moment you try to climb, you've screwed yourself, because there's also blockers whose job is to limit any possible escape routes and make a literal jungle gym even smaller. So now you gotta avoid them while being chased through the trees by chasers. The last role are the chimps smart enough to anticipate where you'll try to escape and will camp themselves in the perfect spot to snatch you if you pass by. It's painfully effective, and once something like a colobus monkey is caught, it's
That is more
immediately crippled
elaborate
and
than anything I could
eviscerated into
do.
several pieces. I genuinely have to be careful with what I show y'all. Just know that monkey's still alive and he gets his arm snapped after all that. Chimpanzees are
I
number
can
3 because they
tell.
might have the most brutal ways of past tensing prey, and they don't discriminate. Chimps are on record ambushing families of gorillas, frightening the females and running fades with a silverback, and kidnapping any babies to remove them. They're not the only babies at risk, and viewer discretion
That
is
is creepy.
advised. As habitat loss and food shortages have pushed humans and chimps together, there have been more cases of chimpanzees snatching human children with chilling results. One human toddler was hold on, viewer discretion, I mean it this time. One human toddler was grabbed by a big male, and in less than a minute, he broke his arm, beat his head in, and even disemboweled the boy and removed his kidneys. Being hunted by chimps is like playing death tag with parkour-capable pack hunting zombies, but luckily, meat isn't their main food, and attacks are still relatively rare, which is why I have tigers at 2. Tigers don't actively hunt humans, but living on top of each other for centuries is why tigers have the highest human body count of any animal on this list. Folks traditionally wore masks backwards in order to discourage the
Then what's
tiger into
higher
thinking
than
he had
them,
lost the
humans?
element of surprise. But it's believed the trick was spammed too hard and now the tigers are catching on. But intelligence is the second scariest thing about them. Number 1 is they are the most vengeful animals on the planet. Black Death be damned. Piss off a tiger and you might not live to regret it. You may have heard of the poacher that shot a tiger and stole part of its kill. So the tiger tracked him down all the way to his cabin, destroyed anything that smelled like the poacher, including his mattress, just to John Wick the man when he eventually returned home. Tatiana the tiger proved that you don't have to be in the wild to find out, after she escaped her San Francisco enclosure to track down and savage the men that had taunted her. But by far, the most notorious tiger in history was the Devil of Champawat. This was a Bengal tiger who had gotten her canine teeth broken, likely by a human, which meant she could no longer hunt her normal prey. The result was she started stalking humans, and the endgame was the man-eater of Champawat destroyed 436 people, eluding poachers and hunting parties and somehow always knowing when to leave an area and lay low. Tigers are quick and efficient. They take you out and then return back to the shadows, and honestly, I'd probably die of an anxiety attack long before a feline flatline. They don't usually go out of their way, but all the extra exposure around humans has shown us exactly what tigers are capable of, and the worst part is, they could easily be scarier. The reason tigers are orange is because orange isn't a concept to the animals they do prey on, and if we were on that list, this is what the world's biggest whiskered reaper would look like, and it's still not
Is that what
number
I
one.
look like to y'all? Just green?
Orcinus orca is the most oppressive predator on the planet, and at this point there's not much I can say that you don't already know. You know they're intelligent, but what genuinely surprised me is they take very few risks. If prey has the smallest chance of fighting back, orcas will move the needle to 0 before they move in. Not only that, but their methods change depending on the target. That's why they'll soul slap a stingray before it can sting. That's why they'll immobilize sharks before they can bite. And it's why they'll up smash a seal as high as they go like Super Smash Bros. But they don't neutralize prey just to be safe to eat. They'll turn a dying animal into a life lesson. In that same stingray clip, a family of orcas toyed with the half-alive stingray before letting its body sink into the abyss when they were done. I genuinely believe the stingray was slapped by the orca grandmother, and the rest of the pod was playing with it in order to learn how to deal with one, and when the lesson was over, they had no further use for him.
They
It's
didn't
not
even
cruelty,
eat it?
it's communal calculation, but it is why orcas are the most fear-inspiring, heart-retiring predators to have, and if you're still not convinced, let me tell you a story that still sticks with me. One grandmother
Didn't
orca was not
someone
only
get
smart enough
attacked
to
by
memorize when
orca?
elephant seals in the Falklands would breed, she knew exactly where and what time the tide would be high enough to hold her. This 20-foot
so
Type A
cute, the
dolphin
seals.
basically staked out the nursery pool until the tide got high enough for her to seemingly spawn out of nowhere and abduct a defenseless seal pup, where she then dragged the seal out to sea as a practice dummy. For the next several hours, her family toyed with and tormented the baby seal, with the pup alive for most of it. Again, it's not evil or torture, but it is how orcas polish their prowess. But for the seal, that's stranger danger on steroids, and one of the worst ways to go out. Slowly, and with zero hope. And now you see why great whites will piece out of a favorite hunting ground for a calendar year if they have a run-in with an op dolphin. And why humpbacks feel the way they do. We're talking about animals that'll
What
roleplay
do
as
humpback
prey and
whales
practice
do?
drowning each other before they try it on a baby blue whale. It's not an act of malice more than survival, simply a skill surplus for them and a skill issue for everyone else. I won't slander them, but I definitely pity their prey more than anything else's, but I gotta come clean. I did lie to you.
What?
They're actually not the most oppressive predator on the planet. That would be
Humans.
Take away
Me.
the guns, the technology,
A bat.
and everything else. The very foundation of how humans hunt makes them the most horror movie predators ever. Simply put, imagine a predator you can never run away from. You can get ahead. You can even get out of their sight, yet every time you turn to the horizon, they're there. They're not even tired, but you are.
Well, I
You're
probably am
exhausted,
tired.
thirsty, and about to drop from heat stroke, yet there they are, not missing a beat, barely breaking a sweat. Hell, you can't even sweat, not like them, and it's killing you. You look in the distance, and to your dismay, here they come again. But this time, you don't have the strength to get back up. They're
Humans
slow,
are
but
monsters.
persistent, like an immortal
My
snail
stamina
that never
ain't.
stops. They
I
run
can't
you
even
into
go
the
up the
ground,
stairs that
waste
much.
you without even touching you, and come sunrise, they're ready to do it all again. You just won't be there to see it. They're finally here. They literally walk you down knowing you're at your limit. One raises its stick, you close your eyes, you'd breathe your last breath, but they took all you had left, just like they take everything else. Your story's over, but the ending was authored long before you first ran. It's not your fault. It's not evil or a crime, but
Well,
it is what happens when you meet the scariest predator of
humans
all
are
time.
kind of evil, so. Not even talk to your parents? No ending? No outro? Okay. That is definitely the number one uh hunter is humanity. I would agree. Yes, yes. Even to our own kind. So yes, I definitely agree. But YouTube, until next time, bye. Bye. What? Okay. Let me do that. I need to sneeze real bad. I'm trying not to. We are already almost at an hour and a half. Time flies. But I do not have. I unfortunately do not have the stamina of an average human. Getting COVID 2 or 3 times does that to a person. It ruined my lung capacity. Aliens in the ocean. Get our captains on. Yes. Okay. What? What? What is everyone's favorite sea creature? I would probably say mine's the seahorse, or like a shark. Two animals that are very different, but both very cute. And take a drink. I need to get like a new AC for my closet because this is not cutting it anymore. I have this small AC just in the corner. I am still absolutely dying of heat. Yeah, sharks are cool. I like the little small ones, and also, I don't know the names of it. Ooh, cod. Cool, 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 cool. Sea creatures are so cool. Very, very cool. But not as cool as creatures of the sky, like bats. Bats are the coolest creature. Because I'm one of them. So I'm the coolest. But let's get into the terrifying truth behind the aliens in the ocean, which I'm guessing is octopus or squid. Probably one of the two. But hello YouTube. Today I'm watching a video by Casual Geographic. If you would like to see more by him, there's a whole playlist of videos that I watched And you can also comment down below what video I should watch next by him. Even though I'm watching chronological order, you can still comment down below. But let's get into the video and find out the terrifying truth behind the aliens in the ocean.
You know, Satan was onto something.
Huh?
Just not sobriety. When he let his sketchbook get uploaded into the ocean. From a breast-stroking body snatcher to a semi-sentient sarlacc pit, the greatest trick the government ever pulled was stacking billions on billions of dollars expanding into space before reconciling with the ET-ish already in our face. The Sea Star and his freak show of a family is a gross-out body horror film unfolding at the expense of all who perceive it. The starfish family of echinoderm has 5 classes, with about 7,600 species across those classes, each as viscerally disturbing and beautifully unnerving as the next.
Cool.
The starfish are so freaked out for Earth, their scientific name is Astrodia. And if a report comes out that aliens have been stowed away in the seas this entire time, the #1 suspect would be
we know aliens are real.
The first red flag is starfish ignored the concept of blood. Instead, they got an open seawater circulation system that actually makes a lot of sense when you realize how they move. It starts with the madreporite, a plate that's like the front door of its system that's almost intentionally off-center to remind you that symmetry is an earthly concept. Water moves in through the madreporite through canals until they eventually reach the tube feet, which is how this Lovecraftian fidget spinner goes mobile. Because when the valve closes and the eye drop-coated ampulla contract, it shoots water into the tube feet and forces them to extend.
Why
and
are
when the
the
extended
tubes
tube
look
foot hits a hard
tasty?
surface, the
They
center
look tasty.
retracts, forming a seal that only breaks when it's time to
Like
move on and stick to
Jell-O.
something else. Thousands of tube feet doing this dance is how a sea star can move faster than a facehugger ever should. Maybe that wouldn't be as disturbing if sea stars couldn't also see. Starfish have eyes. It's just that if he were real, he'd be standing on them. We've known that starfish have eyes at the end of their arms for 200 years. The question is, what is sight to an animal without a brain? Likely something beyond our comprehension. Kind of like the time someone told me blind people don't just see black, they just see nothing. I went
Like
nonverbal for 5 minutes
fruit-flavored
fumbling with the
Jell-O.
concept. It's believed that sea stars don't see the world like you and me. Instead, they see the world in lights, darks, and shadows.
So,
One
like,
experiment tested
if you
this
were
by going to a
blind.
reef in Japan and pretty much circumcising their eyes with scissors. After that, they took the eyeless sea stars and those that didn't get theirs lobbed off and placed them away from their reef home base. The result was the uncut starfish immediately booked it to the reef, while the eyeless ones were left Stevie wondering about the next move. It was also found that even starfish living where sunlight isn't a concept can see, and out of the 13 species pulled out of the deep sea, all but one of them had eyes, including Novadynia americana, which has giant
That
pupils
has
and
eyes?
arguably the best vision of this predatory polygon. And like Mardi Gras,
It
they would
looks like a
flash whenever
cucumber-
excited, except
like a
instead of
carrot
flesh,
gone
they'd
wrong.
flash light. In fact, some deep sea stars are bioluminescent, and many
that a
believe that
mermaid?
this brainless mess of impulses can communicate through that light. Now let's talk about that lack of a brain, because that honestly makes everything Satan Squishmallow does creepier.
It looks like
Instead of a brain, the
grape
sea star has
Jell-O.
a tangled ring of neurons that links signals coming from the arms. But the thing with starfish being brainless is, there is no grand central station for signals. Everything's localized, and signals can start from anywhere. Once one arm decides to move, in that moment it becomes the dominant arm, with all the other ones following its lead. Speaking of arms, they don't always stop at 5. The Antarctic sunfish can have up to 50. It's a democratic hive mind that transcends past the need for thought. Sea stars are like aliens that have been hiding in our faces for 500 million years, and the only thing we have in common is as deuterostomes, both starfish and people start life the same way they live most of it. As an asshole. And there's no time a starfish identifies more than when it eats, because the way they feed was straight up ripped out of a scene from Meat Canyon. The best way to describe how horrific
don't think
nature
it
made
has
this
dipping
bottom
sauce,
feeder is to describe what it's like to be
unfortunately.
hunted by one. Imagine minding your business when an almost animatronic manifestation of greed pulls up on you and slaps an arm on your face, before then using hundreds of suction cup tube feet to pull your jaws apart and force your mouth open. And not only are starfish way stronger than they should be, your jaw would get tired before he does, and the moment your muscles give and allow half a millimeter of an opening, the starfish would then
Where's that
casually
from?
eject its stomach out of its mouth and shove it down your throat, just to release enzymes to cook you alive and basically digest you from the inside.
Is that a
You'd
lizard?
probably scream if you didn't already get your lower jaw dissolved. The last thing you'd see is the external stomach blanketing you in a corrosive embrace before dragging you back to its gaping maw with the now half-digested concept of you. The sea star is the apex predator of a Stephen
How
King
did
wedgie
Patrick
that'll eat
come
mollusks
from
like
this?
mussels and clams. And like I said, that involves using brute force to divorce the two halves of the shell until the muscles give out, which might just make it the worst persistence hunter, cause imagine playing tug-of-war with an animal with no working concept of tired, and where giving up just 1/10 of a millimeter can get your insides turned into soup. And we're talking about a predator that'll spend not just hours, but days pulling a clam apart. They'll also eat sponges like they're coral cotton candy, and I don't think the implication even needs to be explained. In fact,
What?
Patrick would have murked SpongeBob, his family, the kid they raised. I don't know if Buddy got a name, but he would have got packed up too. Their only chance would be Gary using family ties to try and put a hit on him, with the giant Pacific Triton being one of the few animals able to prey on the crown of thorns starfish. But starfish will prey on anything that ain't nailed down, and as part-time scavengers, they'll also remove the dead like a garbage disposing Jabba the Hutt. A mother octopus's prize for loving her kids almost to death is a starfish dragging her off to a certain one. Starfish are also common predators to other starfish, as this one is now finding out at the arms of a sun star. They're different species, so technically not cannibalism. Some owls eat other owls, and some cats cook other cats. So a sea star dissolving another star isn't cannibalism, unless they're the same species. Which they also do, by the way. Two researchers wanted to find out just what would happen if a bunch of baby sea stars were introduced to a possibly predatory crab. They never would, because the sea stars started eating each other before the crab even got involved. Imagine the Joker pulling up to find the hospital already got leveled by a receptionist. There's a good chance this friendly fire is how a starfish can even the odds when they're just one of millions of eggs that get spawned. Because an animal with no conscience is physically incapable of finding a to give, which is why the Australian government had to go to war against them. It'll never not be Australia. The crown of thorn starfish is an unhinged pincushion that has been eating the literal life out of reefs. The Great Barrier Reef is one of the most biodiverse spots on the planet, and in the last 30 years, 42% of its coral has disappeared because of the Devil's Tiara. The response was over 250,000 thorn demons were perp walked off the census, with them getting one shot of vinegar. Apparently, vinegar has a 100% kill rate against a starfish, and just one injection causes them to fall apart. It means one shot of vinegar can do what used to take multiple injections, and can speedrun their downfall, with trained divers erasing as many as 1,000 living thorns in just one 40-minute dive, which you could be fooled into feeling bad for if the crown of thorns wasn't also a threat to people. Starfish contain saponins, a detergent-y type of chemical that foams if you shake it in a bucket. If a starfish's spines enter your body, a mess of saponin does too, and can cause not only extreme pain, bleeding, and swelling, they can destroy blood cells and cause crippling liver damage. The chances you get subtracted by a sea star are low, but mama would have raised a liar if I said zero. In 2014, a woman was struck by a crown of thorns and died 13 hours later of anaphylactic shock. A death where her throat closed in and suffocated her, her liver looked like 6 rounds of alcoholism, and a hemorrhage led to blood leaking into her lung air sacs. So yeah, the crown of thorns is like an ocean lanternfly. Their potential is worthy of the same treatment. Well, maybe not, because we've microdosed the world without starfish. It's not good. One of the all-time creepiest diseases has been massacring the starfish population so bad that even other animals are catching strays. Sea star wasting disease starts with a starfish seemingly starving itself and managing to seem even more lethargic than usual. That's when the white lesions start forming all over the starfish, followed by the tissues melting around the lesion. At this point, the star's water vascular system fails as the victim deflates. The starfish becomes immobilized as its vessel deteriorates and arms fall off, except this time, there is no growing back. The end game is a starfish now reduced to a pile of white mushy goo. Wasting disease affects over 20 species of sea star, with a body count in the billions. The first recorded plague was on the East Coast in 1972, then again in 1978. In 2013, the blight abolished over 5 billion, and in some parts of British Columbia, you couldn't even see the seabed because it was too littered with formerly star-shaped corpses. The disease has ravaged sea stars from Baja California all the way to the Gulf of Alaska, and some like the sunflower sea star have had their numbers cut down by 90%. And with all these sea stars missing, the sea urchins they normally eat run wild and absolutely decimate the kelp forest many need to live. For a while, folks suspected this kill switch was flipped by a virus, but after 4 years of research, the truth was revealed. Turns out, it's actually a bacteria, Vibrio pectinacida, that's causing starfish to spontaneously dissolve. I'd call them zombies, but zombie starfish was already a concept straight out of the pages of Satan's favorite author. Because he made that one too. And they're not even the zombies that give you the respect of moving at quarter speed, because brittle stars are the fastest echinoderms, and if you have arachnophobia, I'm about to lose your business. Brittle stars move like sea spider imitations that, again, aren't that fast, but are entirely too fast for an animal looking like that. Their swimming's a lot prettier though, even if it is the opposite of efficient in how I swim in my dreams. To be fair, dreams are the only place I can't swim, but I'm working on it. Like the sea star, they're a mess of tangled nerve cords spilling into the arms. But unlike the sea star, brittle stars don't have eyes. Instead, the CSTD sees with its skin. Extraocular vision means brittle bandits use proteins in the skin called opsins to sense light. Pretty much, the light hits the proteins, which sends a response to the brittle star to make it move out of the light. Meaning its entire body is technically an eye, which is why it's a star that also fears the sun. Brittle stars spend most of the day hiding under rocks and crevices, so any light sends them scrambling out of the spotlight like roaches. Some aquariums even train brittle stars to associate the lights dimming with food, and so they would all just crawl out of the woodwork whenever someone would lower the lights. Not bad for an animal that's brainless and has to poop out of its mouth. A mouth that has 5 jaws, by the way. Which is the last thing you'd see if you got murked by one, because any prey caught in those spines would get
Those
crushed
look
to
like
death before
sand
being
dollars.
digested. Even something
Is
like
that-
a squid
is that
can
where
get
they're
got if it
from?
dicks around in a hit range of a bunch of brittles, and considering what we know about squid, I don't think you could dream up a worse way to become a was. Brittle stars also catch bodies passively through suspension hunting, but the most cursed version of an already cursed animal is a suborder of brittle stars called Eurylina, aka basket stars. I don't even know what nature thought it was doing with this fractal f***ery. Basket stars only have 5 arms. It's just that they proceed to branch off into straight nonsense. Arms lined with hooks
Why
and
does that look
spines,
so
and when they catch
creepy?
something alive, it'll wrap its arms together and form a basket around its prey. After which, the semi-sentient spiderweb uses tube feet to work the creature entombed in mucus and spines towards its sarlacc pit of a mouth. It's basically getting eaten alive by a bush. A bush that can move, mind you. The giant basket star will hide in crevices during the day, only to climb on top of coral to hunt at
find
night.
that
Also, they get pretty
so
big.
creepy.
Gorgoncephalus is named after Medusa's headshot, and they can have arms as long as 2.5 feet. Just a nightmare of an animal related to a starfish, but as cursed as a cancerous group can be, the feather star is equally as ethereal. This biblically accurate angel
Yeah, those
is a
look
crinoid.
cool.
There's 2 classes of crinoids, the marine tickle monster right here, and the sea lily. The difference is, feather stars seem to have unlocked free will, while sea lilies settle down and plant themselves in one spot via a stalk. But let it be known, sea lilies can always drag themselves away when they're motivated enough, and if you're enough to make a sea lily want to walk away, consider that an insult of the highest order. It really is a living fossil, with crinoids being around for about 500 million years, so basically the granddaddy of all the nonsense in the ocean. So it makes sense that they also have some of the wildest plot armor too. Crinoids survived several extinctions, including the infamous Permian Triassic, which realistically should have been the end.
Yeah,
of it. It
infamous.
also turns
I
out
was-
the same
I
ocean
was
warming that
there.
destroys coral has zero effect on a feather star. In fact, science says they actually regenerate faster when the heat gets raised. This forgotten feather duster was around before us, and best believe they'll be here long after. And yeah, their arms can regenerate, and some can have up to 150 on standby, which they need because the feather star also has a lot of groupies, but in this case the star's the one getting screwed. There are animals whose entire personality is mooching off a feather star, and they even evolved to have the exact same color. Once one of these ride-alongs find their feather, they feed on it, either by chewing on its infinite food glitch in the form of arms, or by feeding on its feces. It's a muse, fresh out the pages of Dr. Seuss, with relationships almost as toxic as his marriage. If you know, you know. One fish, two fish, dead fish, new fish. Except
don't
we're not
know.
talking about fish, and I will not be elaborating further. But the feather star doesn't have it
Wife?
nearly as bad as a sea cucumber. Hint, they look like what they eat. It's a bottom feeder in every sense of the word, a detrivore living off the dead and decaying. They use tentacles to shovel sediment into their system, where they digest anything organic and eject the rest. Which means the sand is actually cleaner coming out than going in, and by recycling all the organic nastiness no one else will, sea cucumbers help prevent the same algae blooms that can suffocate fish. Not to mention their bowel bricks help seagrass grow and even contains calcium carbonate, which not only builds the skeleton of coral, it even helps reverse ocean acidification. Mind you, a group of sea cucumbers is called a pickle, and a reef's worth of pickles can produce up to 70,000 tons of poop a year, and it's estimated the combined cucumbers on Heron Island release 5 Eiffel Towers worth of product. And yet, with all they give back to the community, some decide that's not
tall is
enough, with
Eiffel
some like the
Tower?
pearlfish using the cucumber as a personal panic room, by forcing their way through the squishy's poop chute, the same brown eye they breathe through, and it's not just one squatter they have to deal with. One cucumber can have 15 pearlfish packing its prostate. I mean, what's he gonna do about it? He ain't got no hands.
Imagine a
What they do
fish
have are teeth.
in your tip.
Yeah, that's not its mouth. The other form of self-defense involves violently ejecting the bowels out of the cloaca and respawning the organs they sacrifice in a spectacle called visceral regeneration. But they can be trigger happy. Some cucumbers butt confetti themselves if you pick them up too fast. Oh, also, sea cucumbers aren't terminally grounded. Some can fill themselves up with
weird
water and fly
starfish.
through the water column, covering almost 60 miles in a day. The headless chicken evolved water wings to take flying literally. Probably the closest to cute a sea cucumber's capable of. Or at least it would be if I didn't also just remember sea pigs are a thing. But none of that changes the fact that sea cucumbers get violated so regularly that nature had to spike stripe their sinkhole down south, which the sea urchin somehow decided it wanted for its mouth. The sea urchin's teeth are self-sharpening, and they use it to scrape algae from rocks. Without them, that algae would smother coral and kill it, along with anything that depends on it. Which is surprising, because most would swear sea urchins only exist to f with the natural order. Imagine being so universally hated, you give clout to other animals just by them murking you. Whether you have the pretty privilege of an otter or the personality of a wolffish, you can make an honest name for yourself off clapping urchins for a living. It seems no one likes a sea urchin, but what if I showed you what's beneath the spines?
Pirates.
Does this do something for you? That is a sea
No.
urchin skeleton, also referred to as a test, and let it be known the test has failed, I still feel nothing. Well, I do feel pity, because many suffer from underwater alopecia, where a parasite can cause their spines to fall out, and as someone who's a few follicles away from a first-class flight to Turkey, that's tough.
I'm not.
But sea urchins don't get smacked by life and just take it. They have one of the most unhinged forms of self-defense. They'll eject their jaws and launch them like a projectile. Pedicelaria are tiny, wrench-like pinchers that scientists thought were parasites because they can fully move on their own. Instead, some urchins release a cloud of these mobile jaws that can home in on a predator and release venom if they penetrate past the skin. This spike ball releases hundreds of tiny, self-functioning jaws laden with toxins, which is a lot better than being a cucumber blowing your own back out. Echinoderms are aliens that missed their return flight and have been figuring out life ever since, and without them, the ocean would be a nastier, poopier, more acidic, lower pH place. So the real horror movie would be the world without them. And on that note, that's gonna do it for this video. Water, hug your mother, don't touch starfish, they can't consent. Tell your father you love him, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Yeah. Maybe don't mess with the ocean. Just let the ocean be. Don't touch starfish. Don't watch out for a fish being in your tip. And until next time, bye. Oh no. Bad. Uh-oh. Bye, YouTube. Bye. What? I don't think I've touched a starfish. I know I've touched sharks, snakes, that would suck if you could feel itchy, but not have the hands to do it. Like how your hands get itchy and you just gotta bite it. That would suck so much. But I don't think I've ever touched a starfish. Just sharks. I've touched sharks. Manta, ray, whatever they are. I'm forgetting the name. Stingrays. And a lot of land creatures I've encountered. Oh, I've only touched like very small sharks that they have in those touch pools, the things that they have at zoos for like kids. I've pet those. Also, this is a wild image to start with. That's a crazy first image. I would never want to lay that. Never, ever, ever. Why, this is the scariest predator of all time. Yeah. A kiwi? Aren't those the delicious fruit? The kiwi animals are so cute, but the kiwi fruits are even more delicious. But I would never want to lay an egg the size of me. You drink? Yeah. It gets more and more sour the more I drink. What? Okay. What's up, YouTube? My name is Mystic. And welcome back to Mystic Reacts. Today, I'm watching a video by Casual Geographic. Why this is the scariest predator of all time. Now, personally, I think humans are probably the scariest ones, but other than that, maybe some kind of big cat, maybe. Other than that, I don't know what would be the scariest. But that's why this video exists, so we can figure out which one is the scariest. So let's see.
Some animals very clearly got the middle finger from evolution. This is the portrait of privilege. There is no animal that's gotten more green light
gators.
from God than a bulletproof, sawtoothed, predatory sledgehammer with hyperintelligence, parkour prowess, and the ability to cryo-sleep like Captain America. Yeah, that menace is alive. Find out if you want to. Brumation's pretty much hibernation for reptiles. Basically a built-in power save mode for animals that already don't use much of it. But it means this is an apex predator that can survive a fate with Elsa, cause gators and the like can survive a winter in a frozen pond by turning their metabolism all the way down, where they'll just stick their snouts above water and leave the rest under the ice where it's actually warmer until fate decides to defrost them.
What if
Mind you,
they're
Brumation's not
the ice
sleeping.
breaks?
Gators will move around on days when it's warmer, but it also means this ill-mannered iceberg can probably sense you walking past it, thanks to another superpower we'll get into later. Because you're gonna learn that not only is the mame gecko the most disrespectful addition to the food web, it is humanity's greatest predator. And whatever Oppenheimer felt when Hiroshima got hit with a massacre mushroom isn't even 1% of the regret felt by whoever unleashed an armor-plated equalizer onto Earth. But real quick, I'm gonna be saying crocodiles for most of this video, but a lot of this applies to crocodilians as a concept. I cannot express how much every part of a crocodile's body is designed to author your obituary, and that includes its walnut-sized brain. Because crocodiles are intelligent on a level that should deeply disturb you. Both mugger crocodiles and American alligators will lure birds in by using sticks and twigs as bait to snatch their souls. That would already be bad enough, without the implication. The implication is that Satan's snaggletooth stapler is able to take seasonality into account, since they're aware enough to pull this in the middle of nesting season. They're like Batman with prep time, except they've had 100 million years to plot. Another revelation is that the dinosaur time left behind will hunt as a pack, with scientists watching a group of crocs swimming in a circle around a shoal of
These
fish,
are
making the
alligators,
circle tighter and tighter until the fish were forced into a bait ball, just for the chompy boys to take turns cutting across the center of the circle to get their share of fish.
A lot
There's
of
another
sea
example
creatures do
where a
that, don't
massive
they?
saltwater crocodile scared a pig into running into a lagoon, where it was immediately jumped by two smaller crocs waiting. Now the implication there is somehow the giant salty knew exactly what direction to force the pig. Crocs have been doing this, it's just as expert Vladimir Dene will tell you, it's incredibly difficult to study an animal that does its damage in the water. Because if you're in the water studying hunting crocodiles, chances are they're also studying you, and their thesis statement is your headstone engravement. Vlad has put in over 3,000 hours of watching crocs, and has witnessed things like a stronger, heavier croc driving fish to shore, with smaller, more agile teammates hawking cornered fish. Now you might ask, how do the crocs share their victims? And honestly, that might be more unsettling than how they murk them. Chris Campbell was a contractor for the Okefenokee Wildlife Reserve, which meant over a decade of watching what a neighbor gator is capable of. One day he showed up to work with 60-something gators posted up by the boat docks. What he described were two groups of gators, one in the semicircle formation driving fish to the shallows and using the boats to corner them, and the other group in the background resting, or more like waiting. Because whenever a gator from the hunting party caught a fish, he'd immediately retire to the waiting group, and one of the waiting crocs would sub in and take his place. This went on for hours, until it got hot enough for them to clock out and go their ways. But when Campbell went back the next morning, like clockwork, the morning crush was still there. Same time, same place, same agenda. That's a level of teamwork and foresight most people aren't willing to accept from a prehistoric
You still have a 9 to 5
ignorance
even
ain't
as a
bliss. In fact,
gator.
it's what sustains them. In many spots in Africa and Australia, people are warned never to get water from the same place more than once, and definitely not past twice. It's because crocodiles will memorize patterns and clock your daily routine, and getting too predictable around a professional camper means the croc will take note, just to ambush you the next chance they get, and they'll use very little energy to do it. It's also why studying them is like edging death. Choose the same spots repeatedly, and at best, the croc notices and avoids you with no regard for your research. And at worst, in your snappy studies your habits enough to put a halo around your head. That's a real PhD, which makes the crocodile a gift-wrapped FU to any creature of habit, and why the most dangerous kind of croc is actually an investigator. But if you watch this video, you could be the smartest thing missing a spine. You'll still be a living doormat if you don't have the hardware to back it up. And no animal has more disrespectful hardware than a motion-activated bear trap.
I don't think I've ever seen a wild
Crocodile
gator
is the most physically unfair predator on Earth,
or
because
alligator.
virtually every body part has been expressly designed to flatline you. They have the strongest recorded bite force of any animal at 3,700 pounds per square inch,
Really?
making its jaw a steel trap
But they can't
capable of
open
damage
it
on
for
par with
nothing.
victims of war. But maturing's realizing it's the teeth as much as the jaw. Sharks have serrated teeth to slice through prey. Crocs have death cones designed to keep prey in its custody, meaning if a leather log bites you, you have the lowest chance of escape, which gets worse when the croc proceeds to drown you. And with crocs being able to hold their breath for up to 2 hours, trust that you'll pass tense long before he does. The only thing with those teeth is they're great for grabbing, useless for chewing, so they'll slam prey into chunks and swallow them whole, which leads to the most broken finishing move of any animal, the death roll. But crocs also have the most acidic
seen
stomach
videos
of
of that,
any
I think.
animal and can dissolve bones, horns,
What are
and
they
hooves.
eating?
But they're also bloodbenders with a heart that controls
That just
exactly
looks
where
like
the
a
blood goes,
pile
and a
of
feeding croc will direct blood to
mold.
its stomach, so the carbon dioxide in it only makes the acid more corrosive. And good luck fighting back when nature made an evolutionary aggro weapon borderline bulletproof. Crocodiles are covered in osteoderms, and armor plating blocks the teeth of other animals from doing damage, which is why there's more than one case of a croc tanking a gunshot, but the nasty work is what you can't see. The scales are said to manipulate water in a way that means a 20-foot problem doesn't make ripples. The osteoderms create countercurrents that cancel out any disturbances made in the water, basically cloaking technology, but in a steroid reptile. The same osteoderms can store heat for when it gets too cold and then release it when it's too hot, so they also have a built-in thermostat. There's one more trick under its
fair.
skin,
I
and it's that
want
when
that.
crocs spend all that time underwater, lactic acid starts to build up in them. But because
What is that?
osteoderms are made of mineralized bones, the minerals will slightly dissolve if the acid gets too high, releasing carbonate and bicarbonate ions that neutralize the acid and raise the pH. Crocs are nature's nepo babies. Evolution gave them every cheat possible. And with salties growing up to 20 feet long and pressing the scales at often over 2,000 pounds,
like
it's
4
not like they
times my
needed more
height.
handouts. Especially when you realize, except for a tail that stores fat like a camel's hump, crocs are almost all muscle and look like a snake with legs with Kratos' knives for teeth. That
Do they
tail is a lot
actually
stronger
have,
than
like-
you think, and the same one that can briefly airlift a plus-size predator would absolutely shatter your leg with a direct hit. But there might not be anything more unsettling than crocodiles having probably the most advanced eyes of any animal. Eyes nature put right at the top of their heads, so snappy lads can plot on your life while cosplaying as a law. Eyes that have a protective nictating membrane,
perspective.
so even attacking one of their few weaknesses still requires two-factor authentication, especially since they can retract their eyeballs. And like dolphins, crocs can rest half their brain at a time, meaning the pride of Steve Irwin can sleep with one eye open, and studies show they're more likely to do that when they're around humans. Also, they have night vision because of course they do. And that's not even the most broken part of their vision. The fovea is a small part of the retina, but it's where vision is the sharpest, and it's what you use when you focus on a specific word on a page, or play Where's Waldo. And when you move your eyes to look at something, got him, that's you putting the image on your fovea. The problem is, what is a tiny dot for us is the shape of a skid mark in a crocodile. Having a fat fovea means nature's favorite predator can scan an entire shoreline without moving its head. If you still don't follow, get a book and try to read the entire page without moving your eyes once, and
No
then
thanks.
realize how much of a
I'm
middle
very
finger this
blind.
creature's existence is, especially since the Titanic scale demon has cockroach levels of plot armor. Crocodiles can tank freezing cold, extreme heat, radiation, and can live in waters contaminated with heavy metals. And with a diet of a morgue, they're resistant to nastiness like anthrax, cholera, and the most potent substance on Earth,
What?
botulism. They also have negligible
I forget what
senescence,
that is.
meaning they don't really age the same way most animals do. It doesn't make them immortal.
Okay. I heard in a different video I watched someone watch where like they only die when they can't when they get too big to feed themselves. I think that's how it works. Otherwise, they could live over 100 years. I think.
But it does mean that they never really stop growing and can easily pass 100. In fact, right now, there's a croc that's been alive since 1900.
Damn.
Like the year. Which means, other than a Greenland shark, I don't think there's another predator that can outlive a croc, and with them being nature's favorite, of course some
I
sick
was gonna say
muppet made
turtle,
them
but
resistant to
those aren't
cancer.
predators
And
that
many
much.
believe it's thanks to their gut, because the gut microbiome is said to be a huge part of their health,
Ugh.
and a crocodile's gut community manages to reverse cancer. An experiment found that their gut bacteria put the brakes on cancer, and slowed the growth of cancer-causing cells. Basically, it's a cancer to cancer, and now I understand why Buddy from Spider-Man crashed out, especially since it turns out alligators and crocodiles can regenerate a lost tail. Crocodilian blood also throws hands with bad bacteria and can dead diseases like salmonella and staph infections. This thing's built like a Dark Souls boss, and the fact that they can survive several acts of God yet get neutralized by a rubber band around the mouth proves nature has a sense of irony. But that's a lot better than getting folded by some of the diseases out there. And there's some stuff that Satan would second guess. Viewer discretion is advised, and this time, I'm so serious. I'm not being cute. If you're queasy and not built for body horror, go here before I ruin your whole day. Your lack of action will be considered consent, I'm just saying. Last chance,
Hopefully
you can still go
it's YouTube
back.
safe.
Alright, this is on you. 3, 2, happy Halloween.
What
I
is
didn't
that?
even curse, I did gag a little. This is a deer suffering from papillomavirus, and it's usually not harmful unless you value mental health. But it can also cause Lovecraftian rabbits, with those affected seeming to grow tentacles. And if you live in Colorado, you've definitely seen these jackalopes popping up. And
Nope.
according to this article, the cutaneous quills are caused by the cottontail papillomavirus. This is the worst thing you can see while a mile high.
How would you
Because of the
survive
altitude.
that?
We fear most what we can't
it's
understand.
in your
Sometimes
mouth.
it feels like fear is the only thing stories like these are selling, and how that story is told could be the difference between being informed and building a panic bunker expecting the end of the world. That's where ground news comes in. Blind to, but it's also great for erasing context and mass-producing misinformation, which is why ground news takes the mask
can't
off of who's
escape
really
him.
pushing a story to explain the inexplicable, and ground news was even recognized by the Nobel Peace Center for their efforts in media literacy. If you'd like a guide to navigate random rabbit holes, no, not this one. By now, you already know, I partnered with Ground News to get you 40% off the same unlimited access
Hell yeah.
Vantage
I mean,
plan
this is like
I'm using.
7
Make
months
sure you
ago,
go to
so I doubt this is still active,
or
but
scan the QR code on screen to
get your
subscribe for
bag.
only $5 a month. So hopefully I will never have to look at that deer again. But you'll never see a croc with something like that. It just wasn't enough. Nature gave an overachieving iguana the most broken build on the planet. Their abilities would get them banned in any game.
Roll
Like I
over.
said, a crocodile on a stakeout can hold its breath for hours, and alligators can survive a 5-month cold plunge. Low metabolism means they live on power save mode, and it's also why a crocodile can go up to 2 years without eating. God bless the blood that
Really?
breaks its fast. It means crocodiles can wait out the times that would surely wipe out anything else, and now you see how an aggressive snout managed to reject the same death that found the dinosaurs. Crocs have been around since Saturn was single and still waiting on a ring, and the fact that they can just suspend animation by putting their life on
I remember
layaway
this
just proves that they really are the teacher's pet of evolution. Also, crocodiles are more than capable of running fast enough to catch you off guard, or at least a Cuban croc will, and this is the one time I wish it
They
were
look so
AI. And whoever
happy.
said you should run
They
away
kill
from one
us.
in a zigzag is
They look
guilty
so
of
happy when they
attempted
jump
murder.
like that.
That is a myth that only ups the chance that you trip and go out like a horror movie. You could climb a tree, except they can do that too, because honestly, why not? They do everything else. And not only do they climb trees, according to scientists, they do it regularly, with them finding grown adults 10 feet in the trees and juveniles as high as 30. School
Whoa.
taught you to be afraid of quicksand and giant Venus flytraps, yet somehow a
You
drop
think
gear
they-
was
they
an
dive in the
unmentioned
water for
possibility.
fun?
They can also
Off the
climb
trees?
fences of every kind. And again, you already know where this was taken. This is flagrantly Floridian. I
Yeah.
think now's a good time to
They
mention
get in the-
crocodiles are
in the
more related to
pools.
birds than to a turtle, snake, or a lizard, meaning we just barely missed out on this freak being able to fly. Lightlessness aside, another thing they can't do well is see underwater. Their aquavision is actually kind of mid. We're this far in this
Really?
video and we finally found a weakness. But don't get too excited, because nature overcompensated with something outrageous.
Why are they so
Those pits
cute?
seasoning the crocodile are pressure sensors, and it's how the ultimate predator can clock the smallest vibrations in the water. It completely erases their lack of water vision. In fact, you could hog tie a croc blindfolded, throw it into a pool, and let a leaky faucet drip on a complete opposite side. The croc will still know exactly where the water's coming from, while you won't know where he is until you wake up at a Tupac concert. And when murkiness brings the water's visibility to zero, they'll T-pose, spreading their legs and fingers to maximize an already broken ability. And speaking of fingers, their jaws are more sensitive than yours. A dinosaur beast breathing like a nosegay, but let the croc tell it. That's the only demon that's slaying. And I don't know if I said this already, but let's not just walk past the fact that they can regenerate their tails like a starfish's arm. But the thing is, bears are berserker builds on steroids, cats are four-legged fur ninjas, and orcas are the most cerebral serial murkers on the planet. What is it about this semi-aquatic bioweapon that makes me confidently call them the scariest predator on Earth? Oh, simple. They're a predator's predator. Is there a single predator that generates more anxiety in other predators? Even cheetahs aren't fast enough to cheat death in the hit range of the reptile. And the king of the jungle gets a severe vibe check when they're out of their element. Not to mention, crocodiles will savage sharks to the point where many believe bull sharks actively avoid them. The crocodile is the worst kind of predator, one with zero prejudice, which makes them a massive threat to the most successful predator of all time, Here's the thing, when a
Humans.
lion, tiger, or bear becomes a man-eater, it usually means something's wrong and they can't hunt their normal prey. Polar bears and Komodo dragons are famously less picky, but their home base is so remote that most people will never have to worry about them. Not only do crocodiles practice the worst kind of equality, they're basically everywhere. It's not
They
that
go
they
into your
actively go
house.
after humans, just that they genuinely don't care, which is why it's the crocodile that turns more humans into hashtags than any other large predator by a lot, and considering how and where they do it, that number could easily be higher. Even if you don't get killed by a crocodile, there's plenty of psychological damage that comes from being targeted by one. In 2003, 2 Australian teenagers spent 22 hours trapped in a tree while being stalked by a 13-foot crocodile below, and the entire night was the two keeping each other awake so they wouldn't fall in. To make it even worse, thanks to a flood, the waters kept rising, and the croc seemed to taunt the two by showing off the body of the third friend it had already caught. The two would be saved, but only by helicopter.
That's crazy.
Because really, what else can you do in that situation?
Haunting?
Well, they didn't get it as bad as Ryan. The New Zealander also got stalked by a croc almost as big as the 20-foot kayak he was traveling in, and held captive on Governor Island, where the predator repeatedly made his presence known. 2 weeks with limited food and water, and a 20-foot undertaker that would chase him every time he tried to leave, and Ryan was hanging on by only a thread by the time he was rescued. That's the horror of being hunted by the greatest sit-and-wait predator of all time. Cause time is their greatest resource. You'll never have more of it than they do. And the fact that the big ones can go a year or more between meals and do their dirty work in murky water makes a man-eating crocodile the most difficult kind to deal with. Gustav was a Nile crocodile believed to be 20 feet long and well over 2,000 pounds.
I think I've heard of this
Believed
one.
because despite allegedly putting 300 people in past tense and being repeatedly shot, the serial killer croc was never officially caught. And despite reports of his death, because he was believed to have hatched in the 50s, there's a small but legitimate chance he's still out there, biding his time, just waiting for someone to wander close enough to become 50 Shades of Prey. You never see them until it's too late, and once you do, you might not see them for another year. It's a self-cloaking carnivorous convict that the land before time left behind. This is the scariest predator on Earth. But of course, it's just an animal doing what comes naturally. They're not evil, just forged by millions of years of character development and mass extinctions. It's not hard to see why Steve Irwin rode so hard for them, and I wouldn't be doing Khaki Jesus justice if I convinced you to hate them. Nah, with them it's respect, and a very healthy helping of fear, because moral of the story, always beware the old man in a game where men die young. And you always beware the landlord of Croc Country, because you'll never know when rent's due.
No hug your parents? Okay. If you made it this far in the video, don't mess with crocs. Also, don't go a year without eating. You are not a crocodile, so don't do that. But until next time, YouTube, bye. I think the heat is getting to me a little bit. I think the heat might be slightly getting to me. Oh. What? Oh, it's hot. Like, my closet is probably like 10 degrees hotter than the rest of my house. Like, my room's already hot enough because I don't have a real AC and my windows are broken, but this closet is even hotter because it's literally the only circulations from this tiny hole in the wall for a plug-in AC. More of a fan, so oh. I can feel my head getting lightheaded. I can feel my head getting... Yeah, that's how you would say it, right? I think so. Okay, this might be the last one because it's 30 minutes long. As long as YouTube works. Okay. Being a small cat. Oof. Let me take another drink. But first, let's change the title before I forget. Mm. Oh. I somehow bit the side of my mouth while taking a drink. Uh, bit my gums. Or are your gums just above your teeth or also on the side? I bit what's on the side of my mouth. My ow. Ouch. Okay, that hurt. The depressing reality of being a small cat. Uh-oh. What's up, YouTube? My name is Mystic, and welcome to Mystic Reacts. Today I'm watching a video by Casual Geographic. The depressing reality, the depressing reality of being a small cat. I think small cats are cool, but I'm guessing they probably either don't have much to hunt or have health issues, because usually small things tend to have health issues, unfortunately. But let's see.
You go outside, right? You go
Mm.
outside and you
Oh,
don't find a cat there.
yeah.
You have not gone
What?
outside.
Let me pause this. Hello. Thank you for the raid. The Elytras, hello. We are reacting to some Casual Geographic. Let me go back to my thing. The depressing red. Blah, blah, blah. We are just now starting the video, so you are here just in time. Hello. Thank you for the raid. If you like Casual Geographic, just in luck, because that's what we're reacting to. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, the ad is every hour. But hello. Let me wave my hand because I think you can see previews during ads. But hello. Thank you. I'm so, I think the ads should only be a minute. Or does it do the whole? I don't know why I'm asking. Like, yo, anyone can see, but if you get here during the middle of an ad, no, no, Zeno, no, you're giving me a bad impression, Zeno. You're giving me a bad impression. Bad Zeno, bad Zeno. I forget if mods get ad-free experience or not. Bad Zeno. How is that my issue, Zeno? How is that my issue? How is that my issue? But the ad should be over, so hello. Thank you for the raid. What? Let me go back forward. Damn, Twitch does not give y'all nothing. Wait. How did you hear what I said? I said that during an ad. How did you hear what I said? I don't know how that works. I don't believe you, Zeno. I don't know how you heard that. Welcome back. Hopefully you like Casual Geographic, because that is what we are watching. Yippee! I'm not sure I believe you, Zeno, but uh-oh. Did my thing go down? My frames are dropping. Thank you for the follow. Thank you. Hopefully. Sure, Zeno. Sure. But let's get into the video because this one's 30 minutes long. So, no. That was bad timing, as it is. I only do ads every hour. Okay. My OBS thing just started having almost 10,000 frames dropped. So I don't. The frames are dropping again. Uh-oh. I don't know why that's happening. Did my thing. No. Did my Wi-Fi, router fall over again? No, it's fine. I don't know why it's messing up. Let me move it. Okay. Thank you. Hope you had a good stream. Thank you. Let us continue. Or I guess start the video. Hopefully my stream does not crash. I don't know why so much lag is suddenly happening. But let's get into the video.
Write this down. If you go outside, right?
I don't.
You go outside.
I don't.
And you don't find a cat there. You have not gone outside. You've gone to
Yeah.
or the poles, which is the same thing, just frozen over.
Mm-hmm.
From the desolate dunes of the Sahara to the wilds of Houston, Texas, cats have colonized virtually every aspect of this planet. There is no animal that's gotten more mileage out of humanity just by being itself, and you can tell, because where wolves would have treated us like the plague if they knew pugs were down the line, 99% of people can't tell which cat belongs in a pet store.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for unpausing. It's none of them. And believe it or not, that might just be what kills them. Because 99 is also the percent of wildcat funds that have gone to tigers, jaguars, and other big cats. Big cats are like the football flex of a D1 school. They'll never not have funds for new uniforms and infinite DoorDash. Meanwhile, engineers sleep in bedbug-infested abandoned bomb shelters. The other cats are so cute it kills them. Because most of the public is impressed about the population of something that looks like you can find it in an animal shelter. One cat might already be in the genetic gulag because of it. So this video is about the small cats. For their sake and yours, because no one ever said there were too many cat videos. Pure Spite already made me talk about the difference, but the short version is, big cats are cats that can roar. Somehow snow leopards slid by.
Okay.
Basically, a modified hyoid bone is what gives big cats the ability to evacuate your bowels. So whenever someone tries to argue cheetahs, I just let the cheetahs speak for themselves. Because vocal Viagra to a bird watcher does not a big cat make. Cheetahs are built like the work of a malicious genie. They wanted to be the fastest so bad, now they speed run through life. Being the fastest thing on legs gives them a respectable success rate. But that success gets nerfed when about 10% of their kills gets taxed by lions, leopards, and especially a predatory laugh track. And unlike leopards, their claws and conflicts are both non-retractable, so cheetahs can't even do the cat thing and climb from their problems. We used to think cheetahs ran so fast their brains overheat after, when really it's the stress of knowing they're a main character visit away from having concepts for dinner. Or maybe it's the anxiety of their last hookup possibly being a blood relative, since the spotted doormat survived not one, but two major bottleneck events, largely by keeping it in the family royal style, which is why the current cheetah gene pool is more like a puddle and not even yeast is that inbred. Cheetahs are so anxious that many in zoos have emotional support dogs to serve as role models for the high-strung balls of evolutionary apprehension. Basically, seeing their dog stay calm helps keep the cheetahs chill, and even gives them the confidence to do things like make more cheetahs. But as easy as it is to dunk on cheetahs, it's really not their fault. Being faster than the speed of light has a ceiling when you live in darkness. And the cheetah is essentially an overgrown high-speed house cat in the shadow of lions and leopards. But cheetahs do get props for fully committing to speed with the aforementioned non-retractable claws, ridiculous lung capacity, a flexible spine that makes the scoliosis and mime scream, and even a built-in tail rudder for steering that honestly looks like antelope aimbot. Plus, they'll always have my respect as arguably the most underappreciated single mothers in nature, especially since male cheetahs often reject paternity to go run with the boys, with males forming coalitions to hunt and travel in. So while I don't approve of exotic pets in like any form, if there's one predator begging to go the way of the wolf, I'd have to vote for the Ferrari feline. The serval took what the cheetah did for speed, but for jumping. The serval's been called the Frankencat for looking like it was assembled at a lost and found. They got ears so big that I probably could convince you that this isn't a filter. Each ear can rotate 180 degrees independently.
Not as big as my ears, or actually, yeah, they're definitely bigger than my ears. They can pinpoint the proverbial needle in the less than proverbial haystack. But it also means they file a noise complaint every time someone thinks for themselves.
I wrote like 9 more ear jokes, but surely he's heard them all before. Besides, it's far more freaky that servals have the longest legs relative to body size of any cat.
What
Once
about
you
the
see it
neck?
like anti-fascists, you'll never not see it. It's what gives servals what many call video game bounce, as they can leap up to 12 feet in the air. But it also makes the ones that come in all black look like a cryptid. They're one of the most efficient cat hunters, with a success rate of about 50%. They're also efficient at conflict resolution.
Yeah, I can hear
When two males get
sounds.
into a territory dispute, they'll aggressively emote
I
while
can
they'll
hear
size each
sounds
other
too.
up while placing a paw on the rival's chest. It usually doesn't
Calm
escalate to
down,
violence,
bro.
just a stare
Calm
off where the
down.
winner stays standing and the loser eventually retreats. How to figure out who is beyond me, and if you bring one into your home, expect de-escalation aimed at your
Calm
cat.
down.
Many don't stop at
Calm
if,
down.
with folks mixing a serval and a domestic together to make a savannah cat. Not unlike the pug, I can't say I approve of them as a concept, but I guess it's better than people playing house with an actual wild serval. Doing it with a non-domesticated nope makes even less sense. I've seen many videos of a caracal in someone's house, but not one where he seemed happy about it. The caracal is also called the desert lynx, but let's be real, we all know him as Floppa, named appropriately after their
Floppa.
ears. It's still up for debate what's the actual purpose of the pigtails. Some say it's to mimic insects and therefore catfish hunting birds, or to blend into the surrounding tall grass. But the theory I'm going with is having graduation tassels on the ears is for nonverbal communication with
Ew,
other
cool.
characters, where they can sidestep or invite social interaction with just a swipe of an ear. Because whenever you see something questionable in nature, the safe bet is to assume somehow baby making's involved. They have 20 muscles in those ears and, like a serval, can move them around to eavesdrop on prey like a satellite. Caracals are the coyotes of cats. Against a bigger cat, they're cooked. But turns out, caracals are much better at city living than them. With Cape leopards getting 404'd by humans, the caracal has become the apex predator of the Cape Peninsula, shout out to Cape Town, which is a big problem. For
Is that
one
Australia?
particular bird,
Australia?
the caracal also has turbo thrusters for legs, and the sky lynx jumps high enough to be a hazard to flying birds. So the
What about
worst thing you can
bats?
do is show them one that can't fly. Caracals moving into the urban has also introduced them to colonies of Cape Town penguins in the thousands. It's like a fat kid in a cake store, and they act accordingly. One caracal managed to spend a year in the colony as a fugitive, murking an estimated 260 penguins before eventually getting caught. This literal hissy fit is an accomplished predator, and for some reason, a popular pet. But the tsunderes might be the New Yorkers of cats that communicate in aggression even when they're calm. But like the serval, the caracal is better as an air toll to birds than an ouch on your couch. If the serval and caracal have a lot in common, it's because they share lineage, and they also share it with the African golden cat, a cat very few people have ever seen. They're
Never
found
seen it.
only in the rainforests of Central and West Africa, and they look like a caracal nature tried redrawing strictly from memory. The lynx left behind is one of the least studied cats on Earth, and not for a lack of trying. Leila Bahaeldin spent 4 years attempting to find an African golden cat, and in total she found one. By accident. It's less impressive that she spent 1,400 days waiting on a cat, more so that she didn't drop her camera and fumble the first chance she got. I know I would have. It's likely this incognito cat is a result of them sharing an area code with leopards. Studies found that golden cats will actively switch to smaller prey if they happen to be in the hunting territory of a leopard. There's also the Asian golden cat of Asia. He looks like a travel-sized tiger and has the nickname Yellow Leopard. They were actually named after Dutch zoologist Conrad Jacob Tenmink. Well, my condolences, Conrad, but I'm not saying all that again. So that's an Asian golden. They share a name, but their ancestors split up millions of years ago, and they're not even each other's closest cousins. We also have the African wildcat. To
You
be
can't
fair,
tell me
he
that
is.
that's
There's
not
also
a
the
house
Asiatic
cat.
and European wildcat. And fun fact, the European wildcat's scientific name is how the Looney Tunes Sylvester got his. If you have a pet cat though, direct your gratitude to the African variety, as they're the ancestor of yours. About 10,000 years ago, the African wildcat domesticated itself in the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. You see, when humans were nomads, there wasn't much care for a cat, but once we switched to farming, the mouse-murking whiskered one became an asset, and just like that, the cat secured arguably the best possible job for itself. And since the cats barely had to change their playbook, the African wildcat is a dead ringer for something you'd find in the average American house, which is a
I've got
big
a
problem
cat.
for the other wildcat. The European cat can also be confused for a kennel jockey, at least until you take them home, as European wildcats are notoriously impossible to have as pets. Naturalist Francis Pitt didn't buy the untrainable label and attempted to hand-raise one named Satan. Satan was like an indoor deratio that gave Francis an experience befitting his name. Wildcats don't just dislike humans. European wildcats and domestics have been avoiding each other for about
Why is he
2,000
saying
years.
like a
But by the
slur?
60s, the wildcat population flirted with zero, which likely led to them and domestics pumping hybrids out. It's kind of like how wolves were once so down bad that they settled for coyotes and now we got coy wolves. Except with European wildcats, the effort succeeded in polluting the pure wildcat gene pool, with very few of them left. They've nearly literally screwed themselves out of existence. And good luck rallying support when the average person sees its doppelganger on their yard every day. There's also the Asian wildcat, also known as a desert or steppe cat. Same story as the other two, except there's something inexplicably satisfying about this one. Maybe it's the sand coat seasoned with marks to help break up its outline. Their existence is proof that I could never cut it as a cameraman. Put this in my sight, I would lose all professionalism and likely my lips as I pss myself out of a job. But they have nothing on the deadliest cat on the planet, which it isn't actually him. Didn't I say this wasn't a big cat video? Weighing about a bag of flour, the black-footed cat is the smallest cat in Africa. It's also pound for pound, the deadliest. They'll pack up more prey in one night than a leopard will in 6 months, and they'll life deprive up to 14 animals in that night. Blackfoots might as well wear red bottoms. They have the highest kill rate of a cat, one that doubles lions, and it's believed one cat can erase 3,000 rodents in 1 year. The assassin, named the anthill tiger, has to kill up to 20% of its body weight in prey a day just to fuel its metabolism. They have 3 ways of stacking bodies: the fast hunt, where they essentially overstimulate their prey by rushing around until they flush them out; the slow hunt, where they stalk the scenery and wait for a snack to expose itself; and the sit and wait hunt, which you don't need a description for. Another reason I'd much rather talk about animals in front of a camera than record those from behind one. I don't have the professionalism for that. Now we get to one of my favorite cats, the sand cat. As arguably the second smallest cat, they have no business being the badasses nature intended. They live in a limitless litter box that can reach 115 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, just to drop to negative 25 degrees Fahrenheit.
I can't even stand
Luckily,
70.
sand cats don't need water. The blood of their victims is sustenance enough. The Sahara warrior can go without water longer than a camel because they get what they need from their prey, which often means leaning on their blood. Blood that washes down the venomous snakes the sandcat will headshot and eat. But the biggest headache goes to anyone trying to find them. Sandcats have furry foot pads that protect them from the scalding hot sand, but it also means that they don't leave behind footprints. Also, they spend most of the day underground and the night hunting throughout its range, with some cats covering as much as 8 miles in a little over 24 hours. But even by the grace of God, if you stumble into one, you can still blindly walk by your blessing, since sandcats will famously close their eyes at night when a human approaches, so they can't be clocked by their eye glow. So if you ever see a sandy cat in the wild, say thanks, because that's entirely the cat's discretion. They're so adapted to live in the most unlivable place ever, they actually struggle when you take them out the trenches. The same respiratory system designed for Satan's sandbox is prone to infection outside the desert. You wouldn't want one in your house anyway, since sandcats primarily communicate through golden showers, and if you know about desert animals, the smell of their urine would have them kicked out. Still one of the cats of all time. And on the other side of the spectrum is the fishing cat, not to be confused with the fisher cat, which is neither. Unlike them, the fishing cat actually earns its name. Living in places like the Sundarban mangroves in India and Bangladesh, the aqua kitty can dive and swim long distances. And they fully committed, with partially webbed feet, an aerodynamic head, and claws evolved in the form of fish hooks. Basically the fish terminator, with about 76% of a fishing cat's diet coming with gills. They spend most of their time in shallow water, wading, and they'll even flick the water surface to mimic insects in order to fool the fish. They're capable climbers too, and scientists have clocked them snatching baby birds out of nests. Fishing cats might be the feline raccoon equivalent, as they've slowly been moving into city areas of places like Sri Lanka. It's not that out of place to be walking down the street and see a feline fisher hunting in a garden pond, and some are even popping up on rooftops and in attics. Really a catastrophically, no pun intended, underrated cat. And that's actually a problem. They're vulnerable, it's just that most people don't even know they exist, so they get shafted on funding. The flat-headed cat is even less known, and honestly, they got hoed hard body. If we would have found them first, they probably would have taken the fishing title. Up to 80% of a flathead's diet can be fish, and those eyes that are almost uncomfortably close together give it perfect binocular fish flatlining vision. Dog, even their toes are more webbed than the alleged fishing cat. But this awkward aquatic got stuck with flat-headed. Yeah, no, I'd be mad too. Maybe if they had a cuter name, more people would care about the fact they're likely Southeast Asia's most endangered cat, with less than 2,500 left in the wild. Not like the leopard cat. They're privileged enough to have 2 flavors, the Sunda leopard cat and the mainland leopard cat. In fact, they're the most widespread wildcat in Asia, found from India all the way to North Korea and China. Also, shout out India. They got the most types of wildcats in their country, with a record of 15. The leopard cat is also a swimmer, and has been known to colonize islands. Disgusting.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Also, shout out India. They got the most types of wildcats.
I don't know why I thought I said shout out Asia. as a country. Okay, India
cats in
makes
our
more
country
sense.
with a record of 15. The leopard cat is also a swimmer and has been known to colonize islands. Disgusting greed. In fact, there's a leopard cat variant that only lives on the Japanese island of Iriomote, with possibly under 100 left in existence, making it arguably the rarest wild cat. The leopard cat exists in many forms, so of course folks done turned it into a pet. The Bengal cat is the result of a leopard cat and a domestic mating. Apparently the creator's logic was if
Stop
people could buy
saying
a
like a
cat that looked
slur.
like a leopard cat, less people would buy the real thing. I don't know if I like that logic. I think there's enough cats. That being said, bro got that shit on. The Borneo Bay cat has a familiar situation, but
Why is
instead
my
of
vision blurry?
Iriomote, the only place he'll hypothetically find them is in Borneo. Hypothetically, because the bay cat is basically a living theory. They've only been recorded less than 100 times in history, and between 1874 and 2004, only 12 bay cat bodies have been studied. They straight up
Really?
disappeared for 60 years, because after being discovered in 1856, by 1928, they seemingly fell off the face of the earth. That was until someone pulled up to the Natural History Museum in Sarawak in 1992 with a half-dead bay
Thank you
cat.
for the
Since then,
follow.
we haven't learned
Thank
much.
you.
We really don't know how they hunt, what exactly they hunt, how they raise their kids, how they make their kids, or even what their niche is.
They got
There's
the
few
tail of a
existing
monkey.
videos of this ghost of a cat. This is the best quality pic you're gonna get from a cat that dipped on reality for 6 decades like Captain America. The jungle cat is another one named out of misunderstanding or spite, since they live almost anywhere except the jungle, also called the reed or
How
swamp
did that
cat. You'll find them on the hunt in tall grasses, swamps, reed beds, dry open forests, but never a jungle, of course, where they're an all-around athletic flex of a Furby. They can air snatch birds, climb trees, catch fish, and have even been clocked swimming up to a mile. They usually grief mice and fowl, but will also pack up cobras and sometimes even gazelle. In the country of 1,000 cats,
how would
jungle
they take
cats
down
are
a
the most
ga- a
common one in
gazelle?
India. And just remember, you're more likely to find one on a university campus in Bangladesh than anywhere near a jungle. Now, what y'all know about the marbled cat? It's a pint-sized monkey of a cat, somewhere in the forest shadowed by the Himalayas, where the marbled cat has been found as high as 12,500 feet, or almost 17 Golden Gate Bridge towers above sea level. It's another one of those cats you only ever
What is
run
the
into by
Golden Gate?
accident, since the marble
I
cat
forget.
spends almost its entire life in the trees, moving like a 1.5-foot predatory spider cat, where they likely inflict all manners of PTSD on the primates they prey to prey on. Ironically, the less than 10-pound marble cat almost stole itself a spot with the big cats, with them once considered panthers. And now,
Really?
we get to one of my favorite cats of all time. Look at this dude. The clouded leopard is like a cat forgotten by time, an animated mosaic and living relic from an era long left behind. The clouded leopard is considered the missing link between big cats and not big cats, mostly because, like cheetahs, they talk themselves out of the big cat spot.
Hello, hello.
That is an apex predator, one that's about 3 feet long. I swear I thought they were jaguar sized as a kid, but that's probably because the first time I ever heard of one, it was trying to turn the rugrats into baby coffins. They are the closest thing to a modern day saber-toothed tiger, not by DNA, but by virtue of having the longest canines relative to body size of any cat. Like the leopard cat, the clouded leopard has a Sunda and mainland
Thanks.
variant. While this photogenic fossil has never attacked a human, they're a threat to literally everything else. And with
Okay.
ankles that can rotate, and not just in the Gordon Hayward way, they can climb down trees head first like a squirrel, or upside down, because when you're apex, you just start trying shit. They're even a danger to each other. They're one of the hardest cats to breed because males often kill their mates in the process. Less than 20% of cloud cats in captivity are successful at mating, making them the panda of cats. But if you were expected to drop trow and make a beast with 2 backs with a complete stranger in a room full of voyeurs, you'd be less than cooperative too. It doesn't matter the size or the looks they serve. A cat of any kind is a savage to its core. And look no further than this guy. The rusty spotted cat is called the hummingbird of cats, and they're another one that could spawn in a pet store and no one would
Are they
blink.
the
That is
smallest
until it
ones?
murks everyone else. The rusty spotted is a highly skilled assassin that'll pounce on prey from the trees, and I really wish I had footage of that. 19th century T.C. Gurdon kept the paperweight predator as a pet that earned his respect by hunting the squirrels in his house. The cat earned a little more when
How
T.C.
do
caught it
squirrels
attempting to
get in your
choke out a
house?
gazelle by clamping on its neck, and the cat had to be physically removed from the now surely traumatized gazelle. That doesn't change the reality that this cat would get my credentials confiscated if I ever had to film one. I wouldn't have that problem with this one though. Not because he's not cute, but because he looks terminally unenthused by life and I don't want to add to it. The palace cat, also called a manul, is in a perpetual state of ain't funny. They actually learn to growl before they even open their eyes. They're born beefing with life, and believe me, They have their reasons. Maybe it's because their choice of home can be negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, all the way up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit come summer. Or it might be the fact that living in God's waiting room with limited exposure to pathogens means palace cats are highly susceptible to getting folded by disease when they leave the mountains. It's possible it's because their mating ritual involves the male just following around the female for days until she's ready, something I'm sure neither's happy about. Or it could be their scientific name being ugly-eared cat. I challenge you to find a picture of a palace cat that looks happy. This is the closest I could get. Just a temperamental ball of laundry lint that will use its tail as a blanket and will even stand on it to warm their feet. Speaking of which, the manul is actually the size of a house cat. It's just having the densest fur of any cat gives it an adorable sleeper build. The palace cat is notably afraid of humans and will go out of their way to avoid them, unless you feed them. You could never convince me not to love me some palace cat. Not even a palace cat itself. You could fix your face though. Honestly, this cat has a lot more to be mad about. The Chinese mountain cat is only found on China's Tibetan plateau, where they're very much unknown. Few of them have actually been studied, and the biggest threat to them is that most people don't even know they exist. Show this to the average person, and they'll just assume you're one of those cat people. They'd never know that there's less than 10,000 in stock, and it's all humans' fault. The Chinese mountain cat hunts with extreme pica prejudice, so when China started poisoning them, the Chinese mountain cat caught a nasty stray. Today, most of what we know about them is from captivity, and the only time we ever seem to find them is by accident. In 2018, Hong Shangshi of the Shangshi Conservation Center was studying black-necked cranes when she randomly made eye contact with a shiny Pokemon of cats, which means someone probably spent years searching for him just to get shown up by a glorified bird watcher. But if that ain't the most cat thing a cat could do. The biggest problem with being this cat is no matter how endangered you are, your death will never hit as hard as an elephant's or a panda's. Just be glad you got to see this one. There's no missing a cougar though. One, because it's a small cat that could mog some of the big ones. They vary in size and actually get bigger the further they get from the equator, but most males sit around 130 to 160 pounds. Some can clear 200, and in 1979, a hunter brought down one weighing 276 pounds. Cougars also have the most extensive range of any American animal, and a prey base of about 500. Garfield on steroids is liable to murk moose in the Yukon, and rodeo ride guanacos in Chile. Cougars are the CrossFit freaks of cats, with Olympic medaling bounce while being able to swim a mile and travel over 1,000. They also might be the most ethical killers. They're a predator with a preference not to scavenge and would rather eat what they kill. Cougars are also way more generous than anyone thought, with many being caught sharing kills with other pumas. From 2012 to 2015 in Yellowstone, 118 interactions were recorded between at least 2 cougars, and 60% of these occurred at kills, and many of them involved sharing. In fact, there's a scene from Our Planet where a teenager who just left his mom attempts to steal food from a giant mountain of a male twice his size, and in a complete plot twist, the old man let the little one slide. But there's one predator that gets absolutely no love from cougars. Because mountain lions and wolves have a blood feud, where wolf packs will gang up on any lone lions, but one-on-one, mountain lions commit first degree on a wolf. But recently, there's been more of a trend of mountain lions stalking, jumping, and murking wolves on sight. Since 2013, cougars have been responsible for 30% of documented wolf deaths in Washington. Wolves also have beef with the lynx, but the wolves tend to do a lot better with that matchup. I think I've seen a lynx. There's 4 flavors of lynx: the Eurasian lynx, Iberian lynx, Canada lynx, and the bobcat lynx. The Eurasian is like the big cat of Europe, or the closest they have to one at least. They're notoriously one of the most difficult cats to track, which is a crime with a face card like that. There's many subspecies of the Eurasian persuasion, but the rarest might be the Balkan lynx, with fewer than 50 left in stock. The Iberian lynx is also one of the rarest cats, mostly because what pika are to a mountain cat, rabbits are to the Iberian, and the rabbits dying to disease and overhunting nearly put the predator in the pack. They were down to about 62 left alive in 2001, but have since bounced back to about 2,400 as of 2024. The Canada lynx is the ultimate specialist, specializing in being the Grim Reaper to the horseshoe hare, which can make up 97% of their diet. The evolutionary arms race with the hare is likely why the Canada lynx has what we call proud family feet. But the most notable thing about them is their arguments are probably why the Appalachian Mountains have the reputation they have.
So freaking
Then there's the bobcat, which I learned way too late in life is just a lightweight lynx, named after their short, stubby, truncated tail. Is that out of pocket? Would naming this guy Toby or Robert be? You decide. Bobcats aren't just the most common wildcat in America. They have one of the longest grocery lists too. They'll hunt rabbits, birds, mice, squirrels, but will also fish for salmon and sometimes try and solo
Damn,
deer.
he
One
just got on
bobcat
his
was caught
phone.
dragging a shark out of the ocean, and before you ask, of course it's Florida. Another was caught attempting to bully a black bear out of food. The lynx is dangerously close to being considered the honey
he make
badger
it?
of cats. They're just a castration
Damn.
claim away.
I didn't
You know,
think
I
he
almost
would.
forgot to mention, the cougar also shares distant lineage with the cheetah, but its closest relative is, this is a jaguarundi, or dark jaguar, even though it looks like a self-hating weasel. I feel bad for them. Because their ranges overlap, they're definitely aware of cougars, and knowing that's what your closest cousins got blessed with is like evolutionary rage bait. It's like the maned wolf and bush dogs, just remarkably unserious. The jaguarundi moves like an animal that should only exist in black and white film, but being built like an identity crisis otter actually helps them hunt without being put on a shirt themselves. The fur slinky's able to slip through dense undergrowth while avoiding other cats, which they're really good at. In fact, they coined the phrase, the ocelot effect, which means if you see an ocelot, you know you won't find a jaguarundi, because the former bullies them into hiding. But apparently the biggest threat to a jaguarundi is being mid. According to researchers, the problem is they're not the biggest cat, they're not the smallest, they're not even the biggest of the smallest, they have no spots, no stripes, they're not especially endangered, just a remarkably unremarkable cat. In fact,
Just
a lot of times they get
mid,
caught on cameras
damn.
when the lensman was
Okay.
checking for someone else. Even their name isn't that original. I really hate that for them, because a jaguarundi's dope enough on its own. They deserve better. Same with the Andean mountain cat. They're endangered, and finding this cliff kitty in the wild would mean psing in the Andes mountains as high as 12,000 feet. It's beauty that'll take your breath. That is, if the altitude leaves any left. We don't know that much about this cat, and that has to be the 6th time I've said this in this video. And that's the problem. They also prefer death over bondage because they almost refuse to survive in captivity. Every time we tried, the mountain cat retired to a was before we could learn anything, making it one of the least understood cats on the planet, and we still can't nail down exactly how many there are. But that's also cause they're constantly getting confused with the pampas cat. The pampas is like a video game character with multiple colorways. You ever experienced the anarchy of playing Smash Brothers with 8 Kirbys?
Nope,
Studying
never
the
played it.
pampas is pretty much the same, since science says there might be 5 different species of them. Might be because some argue there's only one
Where's that
species
middle
of pampas
one?
cat, just with 7 subspecies too. But most agree on 5 flavors of this feline. Like the mountain cat, we don't know that much about a cat that often lives where it feels like you're breathing through a straw on a treadmill. Despite what you've heard, it's actually lack of curiosity killing cats like the Andean or the pampas. I'll throw another one at you. Joffrey's cat. Named after some French dude, so more
Joffrey?
like Geoffrey. Another problem with
Geoffrey.
being a house cat is people will pick them up thinking they're a house cat without a home, only to find out at the vet, which has to be annoying. It's kind of like snatching the vertically challenged off the street and then trying to put a grown man in a booster seat. To be fair, that's the Black Morph version. I promise you I'd make the same mistake. Joffrey's friend has also been called the Salt Cat because they've been seen stalking places like the salt flats of Bolivia. It's one of the most common wild felids in South America, and their color actually changes depending on where, with Joffrey's flexing a leopard colorway in the north, but wearing a silver coat in the south. They've also
I
been called
can't see
fishing
the
cats, and
difference.
people have seen this pet-sized cat crossing raging rivers 100 feet wide. Now I put these 3 cats together because they honestly look like 3 stages of the same Pokemon. The ocelot looks like a Latin clouded leopard, so I stand them off principle, even though they have the eyes that knows something's coming and knows you can't stop it. Although given the chance, I'd probably let it happen. The ocelot's prey consists of anything that won't kill them first, including other cats. But there's one animal they seem to be friends with, and out of
What?
all the options they have, for some reason they choose opossums. Ocelots
Every
and opossums have been
animal
caught
seems to
casually
like
walking around
possums.
together, and this wasn't just a one-time occasion. This has happened multiple times throughout the years. They even tested this by placing fabric strips with the scent of an ocelot, one with a pumas, and some random third, and the opossums overwhelmingly preferred Ode to Ocelot. We don't know what it's about, but I'm getting shades of badger and coyote. The
Yeah.
Margays like nature copied the ocelot assignment, but changed a few answers. It's an anime-eyed paralysis demon to anything in its weight class in the trees. They also have ankles that can rotate 180 degrees, meaning they can free run through trees and cancel life subscriptions while hanging upside down. It's a
Hell
mythical tree merchant that'll use psychological warfare against their prey, because Margays will imitate the sound of their prey to lure them out. One Margay was watched mimicking the cry of a baby tamarin, apparently well enough to convince the adults to to stop what they were doing and investigate. This branch warrior is serotonin to anyone who isn't a bird or a monkey. But the cod is like boss music for depression. Also called the guinya, it's one of the smallest cats in the world, weighing about as much as a 5-pound dumbbell. Unfortunately, not everyone thinks they're cute. To Mapuche locals, the cod was an omen of famine, disease, and even death, and would be destroyed on sight. According to legend, the cod is immune to bullets and has a habit of decapitating chickens to drink their blood, which led to a lot of farmers smoking them out of principle, even though cod do them a service with free rodent control. Luckily, the cod's reputation has gotten better throughout the years. And last and certainly not least is the tiger cat, also known as the oncilla. It's like nature heard me hype the clouded leopard and a margay just to mess around and give me both. When they're not stalking the jungle floor grocery shopping, they're shacked up somewhere in a tree. It was once thought to be another version of an ocelot until they were eventually determined to be their own thing, and in 2013 it was discovered that there's actually 2 separate species of tiger cat, but in total it's said there's under 10,000 tiger cats left, with deforestation speedrunning the decline. And just like that, that is every small cat. Holy f***. This will be by far my longest video.
It definitely is.
Only cats could get that out of me. Cats are in this weird place where they're so normalized, many don't realize how close many of them are to only existing in past tense. But one way to help is just by acknowledging them. And I've done my part, so that's gonna do it for this video. Look, I'm tired, bro, so we just gonna run through this. My book, my Patreon. If you feel like it, I don't really need it. Drink water, call your parents, cat, and I'ma see y'all in the next one.
Yeah. And if you live near one of those places, maybe think twice before picking up a random wild cat you see roaming, because it may not be a domestic. It may be a wild cat. So think twice before you take one, I guess. But until next time, bye. What? Okay, I think I may call it there, because it is getting a little late. I'm getting a little tired, and my closet's getting a little hot. Let's see what's next. Yeah, it's about a 20-minute video. So, I think I will call it there for now. And, tomorrow I will maybe, do an art stream, maybe? I really need to finish my art fight stuff. I also need to do a lot more practice on drawing. And, yeah, hopefully I stream tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. Hopefully I don't vanish again. But no promises. I might do that. I just might. So, until next time, which is hopefully tomorrow, bye. I'm gonna go eat. Nom nom nom. Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.